unmute that one. So that one is collecting audio.
have showing. So right now we have something streaming right now. In just a few minutes, it'll be 9 o'clock. We'll bring the order to, we'll start the meeting. We'll go through the proceeding just like we would normally. And in previous years, as you remember, there's hardly anybody that ever shows up to these things. I mean, I think Charlie and I talked the other day, just had a conversation. I think I can count on 2 hands over the number of 15 years that I've been here that people actually come to watch these things. So.
Oh, for our meetings?
Yeah, ARB
I
meeting.
can't remember anybody ever.
Yeah. 2. Yeah, I can count them on 2 hands.
Yeah.
Oh, darn it, my temperature's too high, I have to go home.
Okay. Hey, Cindy.
Good
Good morning. We got some coffee and some donuts and stuff in there.
Cindy, do you have a mask?
I do have a mask. Y'all want us to wear masks?
Good.
Okay, not a problem.
We have the, ooh, man, that's
That's
raw.
not being streamed yet, is it?
It is,
It is?
it is. But the
Yeah.
meeting hasn't started, so
We're live?
we are live.
And we will have a citizen call-in. It's just gonna be a trial run. It's Beth in the front, but she has it, she's on her phone in the waiting room of the meeting, just so we can test out that feature.
Right, because we'll want to know how that, there's 2 elements. There's the, obviously, if it's a telephone conference, we've done those before where we actually listen to that. But if you have a Zoom call, it's telephone, it's just, you're just using the audio portion of that Zoom video conference. Now,
Does that mean that if we, all 5 of us were at home using Zoom, and we did a telephone calling, that we would still be able to see each other, but as we would have if we were sitting around the table?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to the second part. Like you have the physical ability. I just don't know if it's like the telephone portion of it. Let's think about that. If we were here together, you would have the ability to see each other
Right.
in a telephone conference. So I
Yeah.
think you could legally do it. I mean, I would have to ask that question of my attorney. Like, there's 2 options, and you'll see this, Val, I just want to make sure that part of our stuff is the actual notice. We're going to talk about the notice of hearing and all the options and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into some of this,
Okay.
Charlie,
Okay.
and we'll get to actually just flesh it out.
Yeah.
And you get to decide.
Am I gonna need my timer?
No, we're not
Not
hearing,
today.
we're not actually
We're
hearing
not doing
hearings
any
here.
hearings.
This is just a
Wanted to make sure.
procedural, dry run, talk about how we'd like to do things.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock?
Do you have the recording going, Amy? Well, it's live
Yes.
stream, so we can, yeah.
We're opening the Aransas County Appraisal District second quarter meeting. It's 9 o'clock on May the 20th. Present around the table are Cindy Duck, Kathy Hoffman, Robert Dayton, Ramona LeBlanc, and Mike. We have a quorum, so let's get to it.
Did you ensure we were able to hear on the YouTube from another
That's what I'm
device?
checking right now.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to waive the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion that we waive the reading of the minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Next on the agenda is citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens to be heard online?
We're checking right now, and like we indicated before, we're gonna have a test run to see what that would look like in a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
So Mike, we're gonna use these.
Okay, so today's meeting, obviously, we're all here, so it's, the only Zoom is the one Zoom that's it's up there, it's the pad. It's being displayed right now through YouTube and a Zoom meeting. It's up on that server. It's
Okay.
over it's right over there. We're all being recorded right now.
Got it.
Just so that we're meeting the obligations of the Open Meetings Act, so that people could actually hear. The other part of this is citizens to be heard. We always say this, we hardly ever have anybody here, other than when we have regular meetings where they actually have to feel, and then they're obviously here to be heard. Does that make sense? So we were having a conversation, we were trying to remember before, we typically hardly ever have citizens to be heard during this time. We can only remember just a few occasions. So we actually have somebody that we'd like to try to do this for, just so that we can have a trial run. And there's lots of things to flesh out. This is all new territory for all of us. So, you know, we're going to do the best we can.
Okay, should be able to speak and hear us.
So just for the record, Beth is one of our employees, and she's calling in as a quote unquote citizen to be heard, just for training purposes, okay? Okay, go ahead, Beth.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
How is-
I don't know what,
how-
Can you hear us okay on the audio from your Zoom
I
meeting?
can hear y'all okay, I can see y'all.
Everybody wave to Beth over there. Good. All right. So now that we've established that a connection can happen, just so for the record, Beth is just doing this on her phone. She typed in the Zoom meeting. She went into this web address right here. There's actual link in our ARB meetings. All you hit, if you go to our website, it says ARB meetings, and you actually hit the button. It says link here. It actually says click here, and boom, there goes the Zoom meeting. So from her standpoint, Beth, I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, she may have
well,
already bugged
She's
out.
already gone.
I think she may have. Hang on one second.
Uh,
No, I think
When we went through a trial run the other day, it was pretty simple.
I'm here.
Beth, because you weren't part of the first deal, how was this just getting into your Zoom? I mean, I know Eamon was there with you, but could you have gotten through it okay?
Yeah, on the website, it's really easy. The hardest thing was downloading the Zoom app on my phone, and that wasn't that bad.
Okay, all right. Sounds good.
So Beth, you're doing this on your phone?
Yes,
Okay.
Too easy. That's good.
Yeah, okay.
but I also went through the website and it was easy to click on.
You also did it through the website as well. Good. Yes, she's.
Yeah.
She's seeing us on her phone.
Yes,
if we want to
So
blind Ramona real quick, we can show you.
so Kathy,
Look at
raise
this.
your hand. What color shirt is Kathy wearing, Beth?
Green?
There you go.
Where she was going, right?
We'll make sure that the room is set up so that I didn't know that this was how the tables were going to be, and we haven't moved the projector. We'll put it somewhere where it's visible to everybody. However, the room ends up getting set up so that it can
So
be
we
seen.
don't see we can't necessarily see the person.
No, you will. I'm just saying that it's meant to be on the wall, but we had to turn it off because it was blinding Ramona.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. 'Cause it's kind of-
Yeah, you will ultimately get to see, we'll change these around the way that we'll play it up here. See Beth?
I'm gonna turn it around. You can- you wanna turn it around.
Yeah, Beth is right there. That's cool. So we can have interaction with the person as if they were here. This is the whole wonder of technology that we're trying to use in this time. And so that kind of takes care of citizens to be heard. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Everyone have jobs come in, they'll have to do this.
Well,
Okay, we're gonna talk about
We're
that.
gonna talk about that.
Oh, all right.
Thanks.
Okay. Submission of appraisal records.
The submission of the appraisal records, I just brought back that, so you'll see the capture values, PDF, it says 2020 after capture report, and I'm giving a physical copy to the chairman here. We basically have the, what you have to look at there is the grand totals report, which is on the grand totals report for the county. Let me just get to it and then I can tell you what page it is.
That's the first thing that came up on mine.
Yeah,
Captured totals is in the grand total.
grand totals, captured totals, GAR.
And I'm sorry, on here, Val, which one is it? I'm not, I didn't
Gonna be
hear.
the capture.
Okay, the grand totals is on page 25.
See, look, because here's May.
And this is just kind of a snapshot on page 25, if you wanted to zoom in here to page 25. Basically, GAR represents the county. So this is my submission to you that, hey, here's everything in the county that I know of. We're about to start the season. No values have been changed. They're only going to be changed if we went into a settlement agreement with a person. This was done as of 5/18, so this was done a couple of days ago. Robert, are you able to see it?
Yes.
Ramona, are you able to see it?
Yeah. And it's page what? I'm sorry.
25.
Thank you.
And you'll see the total market value I have is 4.279 million, 732,282. So this is the same procedure we go through every year, where we just start the process and we just basically say, these are the values that I know of. And do you have the document, Chairman?
I'm sorry?
Do you have the document?
Oh, that I need to sign?
Yeah, I think I actually need to read it into the record.
Okay.
So I, Michael Soto, Chief Appraiser for the Aransas County Appraisal District, do solemnly swear that I have made or caused to be made a diligent inquiry to ascertain all property in the district to the appraisal by me, and I have included in the record all property that I am aware of at an appraised value determined as required by law. And I am signing that right here. And it is received by Charlie, who's going to sign it as well. And Val's going to do the sworn and subscribe.
Yes.
Okay. So if you'll remember, Robert, you don't know, but what we have is certified totals that we've just kind of given a summary for.
Okay.
We have an electronic roll. Basically, we have 29,000 records. I'm submitting that I'm swearing that that's all that I think that I have.
Okay.
And I'm ascertaining, I made a sincere
Right.
judgment to collect all that data.
Adjusted, done all that.
Now, at this point, we're actually, as of the date of that submission, which is the 18th, I said that, okay, this is the record. Now, anything that's gonna be changed is just gonna be changed from a standpoint of, it's either gonna be settled through an informal, it's gonna be settled in a formal here. That's kind of what it is.
All right.
And the 95% is the 95% of that number that you have to get to by July the 20th. Right?
Yes, and that calculation won't be done until closer in.
Yeah.
95% of the roll, this is a section that's required, that I have to submit 95% of the roll by a certain date to the taxing units. There's a couple of exceptions to that. It's gonna be tight this year. We're gonna have a lot of days. They're gonna go longer. Every hearing is gonna go longer from the standpoint that we have some technical issues that we need to work through. But as far as the submission of appraisal records, item number 4, that is done, sir.
Okay. So we'll move on to item number 5. ARB hearing procedures document. This is under, item 5. Is it, where's Val?
I'm right here.
Val, is it all under Charlie Powers?
Yes, they're,
But it's a folder.
right. So you've got the original hearing procedures, then you have a Charles Powers folder,
Right.
and then a time limits folder, which will be Mike.
Okay,
So we'll go to your Charles Power folder, and
I
there'll
don't
be.
have one. I don't have that either.
Okay, so if you go to that item agenda, which is the
5?
discuss and approve changes.
Yeah, it's item 5,
Then
discuss and approve
Oh,
changes.
Charlie Powers.
Then you see Charlie Towers.
Okay.
Okay. And this is really the guts of the,
where's the document I sent you that said red on it? Number 6 red or 10 red or something? It was the ending in the name.
I got Mays and Paxton.
Yeah, there's a document that was the ARB procedures that ended, the name ended in red.
Okay, I'll have to go look. I'm sorry,
Okay,
the name ended in red.
yes, the file name ended in red because I had.
Hearing preamble is the bottom of that is red. Is that the one you're looking for? Hearing preamble is at the bottom.
No, it's, it would be, ARB procedures document. If you go back out of the Charlie Towers folder and look at this, see the Aransas hearing procedures for ARB Rev 9, blah, blah, blah.
That's the
It
one.
looks something like that, only it would end in red because it was a draft. There were a number of items that needed approval.
So that's not the document we're looking for.
That is not.
There's
Well,
several.
let me just go
Yeah.
talk about a few things while she's getting it. There's a couple of things that changed in the law. One of them is that the 25-25 is no longer just 1/3 above the ARB value. It can now be 25% above if it's a homestead and 1/3 if it's not a homestead. So I had to rewrite the procedure to show how we would calculate it. The other thing is that the training manual clearly states that we have to not only have a procedure for calculating whether the protester qualifies or not. Remember the qualification, Jim?
Yeah.
We not only have to have a procedure for doing that, but it had to be reviewed by the lawyer. So I wrote it, sent it to Skip, and everything's fine. But that's part of the rewrite in there. One of the other things that changed was the necessity for us to fill out to sign an affidavit that we had not talked to anybody about this particular protester or protest hearing outside, we hadn't talked to anybody. We have to sign an affidavit to that effect. And not only that, but we have to have it available to give to the protester at the end of the hearing,
Copy of it?
a copy of it.
So we
Yeah.
all sign it after the hearing and then he or she gets a copy.
Right.
But if they're not here, how do they get it?
Well, that's what we need to talk about is how we do it if we're not here, if we're
Well, if
working.
they're not here.
Well, in both
Well,
cases,
if they're not here, it's the old telephone interview where it'll be mailed to them with the determination.
if I can interject, Charlie, there's two things. Either they would be here, which we're gonna try to encourage people to do it by telephone or video conference, and that's the second case in which they're not here. We gather the ARB order determination documents. When we get that stuff, you would have your signature in there and we would deliver that to them. We asked that question of the attorney, he said that was sufficient. So to be made available at the end of the hearing is sufficient. If they're not here, we would mail them the ARB order anyway.
Okay. But if let's say we're at home
Uh-huh,
and we're signing
uh-huh.
then it has to be get back to you somehow.
We would have to collect it. We did
You
affirm
have to
it.
collect it.
We would have to send an employee to your homes.
Oh, God, jeez.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
Well, I'm just telling you that we would have to
Can
collect.
we
it.
do an
We can't
electronic signature?
electronically
We-
sign?
No, I asked that question specifically. That's the reason we're having this conversation.
Maybe
So that
do
you,
legal documents like that.
I understand, but we had a conversation, Val and I had a conversation specifically asking that question. So we asked, well, can't they just, get the PDF, print it out, sign it, scan it back? And they said, no, you have to have the physical copy. So the summation would be Cindy's copy, Kathy's copy, Robert's copy, your copy, your copy. And we would put that with the ARB order. We would collect that at the end of every day. And all you would do is you would sign it and you'd put it to the side, sign it, put it to the side, sign it. And so at the end of the day, you have a stack. And we will send a courier from our office, and all you will do is just go, here they are. And that's all you do. And you don't worry about it. Because we will collect those and put them with the proper ARB order determination and submit it to the property owner. So that satisfies that requirement. There's no way around it. We've asked. We think it's kind of hokey or whatever, but we didn't write the law. So there you go.
Okay, the reason that this is important is because I don't believe we're gonna hold these meetings here. I'm not comfortable, Kathy, I understand it's not comfortable.
I'm fine. I didn't realize how everything was gonna be set up and with the swearing.
Okay,
in.
you brought up the
I'm
brought up the
comfortable with
concern
the
in here.
setup.
I'm good.
I'm good.
To me, it seems like this would be so much
I
easier.
can't do this mask all day long.
Yeah,
There's no way I can. I
You-
can't hardly breathe right now.
Yeah.
I don't like this. I get panicky.
she's socially distanced at 6 meters or 6 feet.
I
Right?
know, but I understand that we have, and I do. I'm around people all day. Charlie, is probably not, and Kathy's probably not. So I understand that I can't do this all day.
What we can do, we could actually put Ramona in another, she could actually be here. She can be in another room without a mask, and actually have her 2 pads, one to Zoom, one to something. We can work that out. We can work that out.
When you're 6 feet apart, you don't necessarily have to have your mask.
No, you don't.
Well, this is a
Is that what bothers you, having your mask on?
Yeah.
It does bother me a lot.
Well, if we
Yeah.
we don't, technically, my understanding is with this spacing,
But
We
I'm
don't
so
have-
confused on what's right and what's wrong anymore. I don't really,
The problem I have is this is confined space. I mean, if we were sitting out in the yard, it would be different, but this is a confined space.
we got our temperature taken and we wouldn't come if we had a sick, if we were sick or had
No.
any symptoms. I mean, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
I don't know. I just, from what I'm hearing, it seems to me that it will be so much easier if we were on.
Yeah, I'm-
Ramona, we could, look, if we put her right there in the kitchen, then we
But
can
like
like,
Charlie said, it's a confined space. What we do every day and every night at the restaurant makes, we do our best to sanitize everything and spray everything down after everybody leaves. Because it is a confined space. And we do have older people that come in.
Like me.
But you have people that you don't know who they are necessarily.
Thousands of people that come in,
Yeah,
they're not from this area.
Yeah, I have trouble with the mask as well.
Why?
I mean-
oh my God, I'm sitting here looking at you and it's like my glasses fog up. So I'm sitting here looking at you
That's
going,
why
oh my
I'm
God, Mike,
here.
if you don't quit that fog in business.
Well, let's get on to the order that, like, what we need to do here. And then let's discuss, one of the things that
What was
we're
the
gonna
thing we
discuss,
were gonna do?
you're gonna discuss, like, whether you'd like to meet here. Because my end result is that I'm gonna encourage as many citizens to call in or Zoom in as possible. So at least there's not that element from the public coming and exposing each of us. If we can do that, that would be great. One of the things we found out, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, Charlie, but one of the things we found out was, under the protest form, we have to give, if a person says, I insist to be seen, I want an in-person hearing, we found out through AG opinion that that is in fact true. We have to give it to them, but it doesn't say when, which means that, which means
I love that you said
that,
Red.
they would actually
The color
be
red.
seen at a later
Color
time.
red.
Like maybe when, COVID restrictions are less than like there's less of a threat level or something like that. We could see them like in September and October if we met the 95%.
95%.
So it's really dicey this year from the 95% rule, because if I have, let's say I had 2% of the appeals represent 2% of the value of the calculation, and 2% of those were like, I want an in-person hearing. We say, okay, not a problem. We get that notice of protest, we put it to the side and say, okay, that's in that stat. Now, if this stat exceeds 5%, I don't know. We're in a conundrum. We have to see that person in person.
Well, could you do it where we do a Zoom with the understanding that, you know, if
We can't. And a person that
The
make,
reason I put the Paxton thing in there is that Ken Paxton, our AG, made an opinion piece the other day. And that if the person wants an in-person hearing, he
Right.
gets an in-person hearing. Period, end of discussion. No Zoom, no nothing.
And I don't know, but I kind of feel that it's easier for the person to come in and do the thing than to be on a phone or in the Zoom. I feel that they feel better that way. I do. Because you get to see everybody's face and.
A lot of older people who, you know, we get a lot of older people, they don't know how to use a cell phone, they don't know how to do Zoom. They'd almost have to come in because I don't think they can navigate their way through.
we won't know that number until we get into it. Obviously, this is new territory for all of us. And we're doing the best we can. So the options, I don't want to jump the gun, Charlie.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
We're into the discussion.
Yeah, but if you go back and Val,
And she's still trying to get my document.
okay, I'm sorry. Let's see, housekeeping items. No. It's let me find it before I send you to. Procedure preamble. One of the things that we found out in the 2525 is that we're going to give them options. We're going to give them for the notice of hearing, and we're going to say you can be heard in person, video conference, or telephone. And we're just going to encourage as many of those as that we can. That's all we can do is we're just going to encourage individuals to actually meet via video conference. And we just won't know.
What are you doing about all the people who come in to see you first before they may end up with
They're
us?
all telephone hearings. So legally, I have no,
You're not gonna have people coming in with them.
yeah, legally, I have no obligation to have any informals. So that's just a courtesy that's done by not only our district, but many districts across the state. There's many districts that don't do informals. They just say, oh, you have a question about your property value. They just go through the whole formal procedure and just listen to it once at an ARB meeting.
So we could potentially have more cases this year.
We could, but we have already encouraged, we have set an e-file. From our standpoint, what we've tried to do is we've sent, rather than just do e-file pins for just homestead property owners, we opened it up to everybody. So we sent everybody an e-file pin. What's good about that is a person can electronically submit their evidence. Like they take a picture of a damaged whatever, and they just upload that to the website. Not to the website. They upload that to the portal, and it's automatically in the system. It's just automatically there. Another thing is that they can do video conferencing with that. They can do telephone conferencing with that. We are going to have some people that just say automatically, they're just going to adamantly say, I want to be seen. I want an in-person hearing. And you may be right, Ramona. You may have individuals that feel like they're getting a better shake or that they have more interaction.
They
But-
do, they get more,
But-
I don't wanna say emotional, but I mean, you know, they put their heart into it a lot. you know.
Right. Well, yeah, and they put they're obviously concerned about their values, but there really is no, in my opinion, there's really no advantage when you're weighing all the advantages and disadvantages for a Zoom meeting. Like the Zoom meeting, in my opinion, is superior. Like it takes 2 minutes to download the app. It takes, I mean, you can get on it pretty easily. There's a link, even if you're on your computer and you have a cam, you know, which I don't know, some people do and some people don't. If you have a laptop, you do. If you have a Kindle Fire, you do. If you have an iPad, you do. I mean, all of those things work pretty easily. That's the reason we went through the demonstration today with Beth. We've practiced this before.
But there's a lot of people like Kathy said, you know, I mean, I'm just very new to the Zoom myself. I've done it once.
I don't.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
I mean, we're not gonna know, Ramona, until we know. I mean, so, but, let's see, these hearing procedures. Val, can you tell me where I could go to look at the, remember what we were working on yesterday with the hearing procedures and the hearing notice samples and stuff like that? Is that not in here?
Well, it's further down, like the notice sample. Now, I put a copy of the current hearing procedures right where you're at.
Where would the notice samples
It would be like under housekeeping
House-
items.
Got it.
So where are we supposed to be now? Cause we,
Go to the first page, go up to the top.
But we don't have the document yet. The procedures document yet, but I'm gonna try to fix that.
is that the Aransas hearing procedures?
Right,
Yeah,
that's
but
the
it ends-
original.
That's the original, but it ends in red, because I had redlined the things that we needed to be voted on.
This one doesn't end in-
I need you to go to my computer.
Hi, Fran.
Sounds like my house. I need you to do this.
Do this now.
Yeah. And that sounds like me.
No.
The Excel.
Yes.
You just need to know from,
Open up an email, send a new email to Val. If you put the V in it, it'll come on. Okay, open up, you want to attach a document? And it's in C store ARB.
Windows OS 8C, what?
No, it's C, it's on that machine, C store ARB.
Okay, what?
Okay, now near the top in chronological order should be an Aransas hearing procedures document. I don't remember the exact title, but it's hearing procedures, and it ends, the name of the file ends in red, R-E-D.
Red or rev?
R-E-D, red is in the color red.
Okay, I got May's, Paxton, May, hearing preamble, hearing procedure times single page, hearing preamble, or training certificate. I'm not seeing it there.
she did say.
There should be two documents. One says, has the word red in the last part of the name, and the other document doesn't have anything. It's a clean one. But they're both the same name and they're both the same date.
This
It was date out.
A couple days ago.
I'm gonna read them down from the top. Mays, Paxton, May 20th, 2020. Hearing preamble rev, REV. Hearing procedures time, single page. Hearing preamble rev 6.
That's it. Hearing procedures, Rev 6. Red.
No, it's rev. You got REV, not RED.
I know that one. There's another one that's just like it that has Rev 6 dash red.
Good Word document, Charlie.
No, it's PDF. Well, there is a Word document also.
Could she go to Word, look in recent files or recent files,
Recent
and we pick it up there?
Might be able to.
No, I do not have anything that has red.
In the name.
No. Do you need this hearing preamble rev 6 doc? Or here, or the PDF?
Not the preamble, but the hearing procedures.
Single page maybe?
No. That's time limits.
Oh, okay. I have nothing that has red, dear, nothing at all.
Do you have anything that has hearing procedures Rev 6?
Rev hearing, no, hearing preamble rev 6. Aransas hearing procedures for ARB Rev 11.
Okay,
And here's Aransas hearing procedures for ARB Rev 11 red.
that's
CD.
it. That's it.
Okay,
That's it. Send it to, yeah.
all right,
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
upload it.
all right,
Thank you.
bye.
Yay.
You need to do something nice for her when you get home.
I know, and then we're all sitting here listening.
Just the back and forth.
You want out.
It sounds so much like my household.
Is this the last one?
Huh?
It's just, it sounds like our household too. It's
Oh.
like, what now?
Just the old days of before computers.
Sorry?
We need
Cell
to start
phones.
letting people come in, the public come in.
Couldn't have
I
gotten
haven't
that.
decided that yet. I haven't decided. Just so you know what I'm doing as the chief appraiser, so I'm the chief administrator at this facility. I'm responsible for not only the welfare of my staff, which, we're limiting, we have a limited scope of how we help the public. How is that? Because we don't open the lobby to the public, but we're still serving. We've never stopped working. Since through this whole thing, we've been working diligently to get the values out. We have an obligation and a legal obligation, legal requirement to get the certified roll by a certain date. That hasn't changed. So if I open this is my thought process. If I open the lobby to the public and I got one person sick, then that means my whole staff, because of the size of our staff, would be quarantined for a 2-week period. I don't have 2 weeks to get it. I have to work through all the way through until I get that certification done. So my call is current, my decision is that I'm going to, serve the public in a limited capacity, with that understanding. And I haven't made the decision on what I'm
Yeah,
going
that's
to do.
good. Thank you.
But I think I'll feel a lot better about it after certification, so we'll see.
Is there any way, since used to be a bank here, it looks like, did you could use the drive-through? for-
Yeah, we've been getting,
Some face-to-face meeting time with people
Oh.
who might come in without letting them in,
yeah, we've actually had conversations through the side, but they're able to hand documents through the drop-through. Is it under Charlie Powers?
It is, top one.
So we actually have had some conversations face to face, but you'd be surprised, we're able to help people in all kinds, I mean, a large amount of our stuff is just handled like, what do you need? You send this document, we reply, so we're able to help the public in a good way, at least from my perspective, we are. I sense that, you don't get those quick interactions like you would once have, like, oh, I'll just drive over to the president and ask a question. Well, now you pick the phone and ask a question. But we're trying to be responsive to that.
Okay, if you scroll down to Roman numeral 2, ARB duties, and get down to item 4, is the calculation and test to see if the person qualifies under 2525 for homestead and for non-homestead.
But that ARB core that core isn't coronavirus. This isn't a one-time deal. This is from here going forward, right?
That's ARB corrected value.
Okay, I just wanted to, it was like.
I believe that's what it means. Is that right? Yeah. This is just in relation to the last question that we had, which was so close to that number. We wanted to be sure on how to do the calculation. Charlie put it before Skip Hinkle. I put it before Jim, and they both affirmed this calculation that it's that the corrected value times 1.25 must be less than the current appraised value. So that's the corrected value for a homestead property because it's 1/4, and what you remember is more than 1/3 over, which is the 1.33 for all other types of properties. That's the new legislative law. So.
And they made a big point in the training that we were supposed to include this in our procedures and have it approved by a lawyer.
Right.
So we did that. Any questions?
Do you need to have a motion on that?
We could do it all at the same time.
Gotcha.
I got a couple more.
Okay.
Just scroll down till you see another red line. I'm doing this with
Conduct of.
okay, any conduct of hearings open to the public. Introductory statement should be at the beginning. I had to change the introductory statement here because they took out the clause that said that we could require them to fill out the survey before they left the facility. Can't do that anymore.
I can't fill out survey.
We cannot force them to do it before they leave the facility.
Oh,
They
you
can
can
take
do
it
it whenever.
So
Yeah,
they can
can
do
take
it a
with them.
month later or whatever?
They can take it with them and mail it in, or they can go on SurveyMonkey, or they can mail it to PTAB. If there's anybody at PTAB that knows how to open the mail.
Most people, if they fill it out here, we got them. If they take it home,
I was surprised. We got that deal back, Val. Did we talk about that? Where we were one of the top.
Because
Yeah,
we are good about it.
Yeah, we were one of the top people in terms of getting surveys in.
We were one of the top respondent counties, and we're the 4th smallest geographic area in the state.
It was pretty awesome.
We fall kind of in the middle as far as population, but I was really surprised that we had as many respondents as because all the other ones were big districts as far as number of respondents, and we had a ton of respondents. So that was, you should be applauded for encouraging citizens, to fill out their survey.
But I agree with Kathy, it's gonna be down as a result of this, because we kind of twisted people's arms when they went out the door to take the survey here, while they were here.
it's like me, I throw it on my desk and I might sort of.
Yeah, then 2
months
weeks later, you're like, this isn't.
I'm gonna put a stamp on it and mail it back to them.
So subsection C, is that the next part?
Yeah.
Communicated with anybody about the protest and sign an affidavit to that effect?
Right.
Where are you? Oh, okay.
Just down to C. The law now requires that we all sign an affidavit that we have not talked to anybody about it, communicated with anybody about it before each hearing, with it customized to that hearing and everything.
Val, do you have a copy of that somewhere in here?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the
Okay.
tablet.
The signing of an affidavit to that effect, where we have remember how we have,
Oh, right. No, you know what? I will upload that in the housekeeping
Val, if you
section.
just bring a copy of it, just
Okay.
we can show her.
Isn't that what we sign normally?
Except the language is a little bit different, and that's what he wants to show you.
Oh.
There's an affirmation that you would each say, I am Cindy Duck, and I affirm that I have not communicated with section whatever it is.
Right.
And so we're gonna show you that form in just a second.
But actually, it used to kind of say the same, similar. Didn't it say something about that I have not
It was a
seen
large- it
these
was a-
documents or?
The paragraph.
Right, it was a larger paragraph, and you just signed to that effect. But we asked the question, and it's apparently, you actually have to say,
So-
you have to affirm and sign. So not only just sign, but you actually have to say the words.
We didn't have to do that, we just signed.
Right.
Let's say on every one of them.
Okay, but we condensed it to something, and that's why I have Val getting the document
Now,
for you.
the question comes up as to, if we do this from home, what does the document look like? Does it have all 5 signatures and we just do one of the 5?
You'll see that it has all 5 signatures, and you just have the one.
Are we able to sign on the screen or do we have to?
No, you sign the paper,
We have to
We have
have the
to-
original signature.
you have a PDF, you print it out,
Oh.
you sign it, you put it to the side. At the end of the day, somebody will come by and pick all of those up.
Is it gonna be touchless like Domino's is? I set it on the counter or on the porch and.
You can do it that way if you want to. If you want us
I'm
to.
only kidding you.
if you want-
They'll call, I'll put it out 6 feet away, I'll run back in the house, I'll like, you can get out of your car now.
I know,
I
the
think-
Domino's guy was like,
I
I'm
mean,
getting cash the other day.
There's a certain amount of, we're touching the paper, you're touching the paper kind of thing within a short period of time. You just need to know that we're trying to take precautions when we're touching paper from the public. So those boxes right up there, we actually have a room that we date. And so we say that this is a Monday, and we received the document on a Monday, and we put it in that box. We leave it there for 3 days before we actually pull the documents out, because the virus is not supposed to live on cardboard or paper for a period of more than 3 days. So this is the document right here. And the statement is like, if it's Cindy, I, Cindy Duck, do solemnly swear that I have not communicated with another person in violation of tax code section 4166F. And then you just sign it. So on the Zoom meeting or on the telephone conference, it doesn't matter if we're here, if we're at home, you're here or if you're at home, you actually have to say that. I, Robert Dayton, do solemnly swear that I have not communicated with a person in violation of section code 4166F. And then you just sign it. And then you put that to the side, and at the end of the day, you'll have a stack of these. And you would have said the statement 50 or 20 something times that day. But it's not as big as the other statement we used to have. So we kind of boiled it down. That's the point, right, Charlie?
Yeah.
So that's section C of this. This relates to this section right here.
And so it's sworn in at the same time, they're swearing in?
Yes, my swearing is still the same. So,
Thank you.
and I believe, Val, my swear-in and the citizen swear-in is still the same.
It's not going to have, where the board members sign at the bottom, because there's no reason to.
But the language at the top is still the same for me, the citizen, which it says, I do solemnly swear from the testimony I shall present to the Prison Review Board for the Aransas County Prison District, correct? I sign that. The citizen will be at home. They would have already filled out the form 50-283 for the affidavit. So they're gonna fill it out anyway, like they normally would for a telephone conference or a video conference. They've already filled out that affidavit, so there's no need for them to swear in. So when they call in, he starts the proceeding. I do solemnly swear the testimony I shall present to the Prison Review Board for the Aransas County Prison District is true and correct. And then it says, Then Charlie will just start off. I, Charlie Powers, do solemnly swear I'm not communicating with any other person in violation of tax code 4166F. He signs. The very next person just starts in that video conference. Okay, so that whole procedure probably takes a minute for you to run through. So each of you members probably runs through that whole dialogue in about 10 seconds. Okay, so it won't even take a minute. All right, Charlie?
Yep.
The next part.
If you go down to the end of the hearing, the requirement is item T. To provide the property owner and the agents or the agent documents indicating that members of the board hearing the approach agreed. Sign the required affidavit. That was
The fact that parties for their participation.
copy, this has to be sent to them or given to them.
Right.
Is that on
Given to them
another
if they're
form?
here, sent to them if they're not.
The form that we sign, if this one
It
here,
would,
they get a copy of this.
They get 5 copies
Yeah.
so if,
potentially.
let's just say coronavirus just died tomorrow, and we were all meeting here regularly, they would get a copy of this at the end. That's all it would be. The way it probably is gonna work out is there's probably gonna be a telephone conference or video conference, and we'll collect those at the end of the day, and they'll go out with the order determining protest, and it'll just be in there. Instead of just one copy with 5 signatures, it'll have one signature for 5 copies. Does that make sense?
Okay,
That's all the red I saw.
that's all the red?
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else. No, that's it. That's all the changes. There are corresponding changes. I'm not sure whether you have.
Charlie, do you want me to go into the rest of these documents, or do you want to go into them, or the Paxton AG, you want me to summarize
No,
that?
You can do it if you wish. I just put them in there in case the subject came up and we
Okay.
needed to refer to it, but.
The Ken Paxton AG opinion basically says that if a person wants an in-person.
Wait, you have to go out of this document and go back into Charlie's list, and it's the second item on the
It's
list.
called Paxton KP 0307. Do you have it? All right, so in that document, it basically says that if a person, your question implies that in-person, in this on page 2, implies that in-person requirement may be met by holding the hearing by video conference, which allows the property owner to view the appraisal review board viewed by its members. However, the common understanding of the phrase in person involves someone's physical presence. So basically this guy is breaking it down, and he's saying, if a person says he wants an in person, it means physically in person. So again, we at the appraisal district are going to try to encourage property owners to do video conference, to do telephone hearings. Even if they go, I protest, and they put in person, we're going to call them. We're going to say, hey guys, first of all, can we work out the value so you wouldn't even have a proceeding? Secondly, we noticed that you put in person. Would you please consider doing a telephone hearing or a video conference? I don't know how to do that. Well, it's pretty simple. But, we're obviously talking on the phone, so you can do a telephone hearing pretty easily. Those kinds of things. We would try to encourage them. There's going to be some people that absolutely want an in-person, and we're going to get that document. We're going to put it to the side. We're going to start adding that list and do our 95% test at that point.
Yeah.
The next document down, so you have to hit back and go to page 74 of the ARB manual. Is there anything you want to?
Those are just references to what I went through.
The 1/3.
The 1/3, let's see, page 74. I brought those just in case.
This is for the calculation. So this is actually what the in red, the corrected value times 1.25. This is another way to look at it. It's actual law. So this is the section of the code, or section of the manual, I'm sorry. All right, the next document down is page 44 of the What did you want to bring out here? It's the computer screens, chief appraiser, audiovisual equipment.
Oh, this was the audiovisual equipment. This was the statement that is in one of these paragraphs.
Right, that it has
The
to be.
chief appraiser uses audiovisual equipment hearing, it's about third paragraph down. Which basically said that if we force somebody to use, it's the conversation you had with the lawyer.
That's correct.
If we make somebody use a video conference and they don't have a computer, we have to give them a computer.
And the answer is no, we don't
The
have to.
answer is no.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Oh, my God.
so there's language that says that you have to have commensurate type of equipment. But the fact that it's using an internet-based thing, we don't have to provide a computer. I asked, I mean, because I specifically, when I looked at that language, I went to my attorney and said, so is this saying that if we're asking somebody to do a video conference, you have to provide them a computer or internet access or any of the other things that are required to do it? And he goes, no, that's ridiculous. You would just default to telephone here. And he goes, nobody, he goes, no. So anyways, we wanted to bring it to light.
So those are the references, we really have covered them.
Okay, page 5, 10 grounds for right of protest, I guess. Did you want to say anything about that?
Which page is that?
It says 5, well, page
Page
5 from 96 point something, 96 something.
96-1415
Right.
PDF.
You had that in your,
That's in the training manual.
I just didn't know what you wanted to reference there. But that's okay.
I can't bring it up.
Okay. Page 43.
Click on it and we'll find it.
Market, the determination of the appraised or market value.
One of the 10 grounds provided for right of protest.
Yeah, 10 grounds provided for the right of protest, but the other one is taxpayer protest.
Is that in it? I don't know why, it seems like it went behind.
It's taxpayer protest. It's basically unequal
Does he have it?
ag. Here, Charlie, look at mine so you can just try to remember what it was about.
And it's only that one page in that one, Charlie.
All right. We're moving on.
Page 43.
Page 43. Page 43. You remember what you wanted to bring up here, Charlie?
Wait a minute, we're working on it there. This is probably T.
Are we going back to 5? Page 5?
43.
Okay, 43. We're on page 43. You're looking at letter T.
I think it's probably.
Mine stops at us.
It stops at S. This is just an order of the proceeding. I mean, that's,
Right.
so this is just an order.
Let's see. I have some hard copies of work from here. Page 5 was the affidavit must be signed at the beginning of the hearing.
Okay, so we've talked about that.
Page 35 was their view of the communication affidavit, and with the one sentence that we used. Hearing procedure times we haven't talked about yet.
Is that page
That's
43?
in a maze, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's referring to the procedure and the timing.
Yeah, we've hit them all because they were all just back up to if there were questions regarding the changes I made to the procedures.
Okay.
And if I had a pair of glasses with 2 ends on them, I'd probably be able to find them.
All righty, so we're backing out of Charlie. We're going to time limits.
Yeah, the time limits are interesting. We have them on the wall up there. We're in a position normally to look at the time limits. What I was going to suggest,
Oh, gosh, that's right.
you know, is that if we do this from home, that I would take the tablet, which is intended for use in Zoom, bring up Zoom on my computer, and use the tablet that was intended to use for Zoom, bring it up on Zoom, and just focus it on the times, so that they would be in one of the chiclets
Right.
on Zoom
Okay.
and visible to everybody.
Or we can just make a copy of this and keep it at home.
Yeah.
But the protester can't
They
see
have,
that,
they have to know what's going on.
right? The protester can't see that. So if we were to do a true Zoom conference with the protester involved via Zoom, this is the only way he could see it.
Val, is this not included in the
We
hearing?
send them the packet, right? And in the packet, it does have, or last year,
Yeah.
because you would say,
Val,
did
is
you
this
see
included?
that
It was on the
timesheet? And
back
they
of
would
page.
say, yes, I did.
It was on the back of page 2.
It's included, this is included in the notice of hearing. So-
Yeah.
Now, you had some things you wanted to maybe change on the time limits. correct?
Oh, yes, on the time limits, on the time of the time limits, my suggestions here, you notice how, like, if you're looking at the protester, like the first one on the left-hand side, where you have 5 minutes of deliberations. My suggestion is to take, not to actually extend the time. So you have a set amount of time, it's just to shift the time. And you can say, that's a great idea, or you can say, that's a terrible idea, and you don't have to do anything. But many times, there's the protester presentation, I do the cross, the district I do my presentation, they do the cross. And my thought is you would take 2 or 3 minutes right there and ask any questions that you wanted to ask as a board
Can I take this one?
from both
Can I take this one?
the protester and the district. Because at the end, you usually don't use all 5 minutes to like really try to figure like everything out, because you kind of made notes, you kind of want to proceed. But there's very many times that you have questions right in the middle or right after either the citizen has presented something or the district has presented something. And there's really no opportunity for you, and we kind of have to stick to things, especially in this year, if we're doing video conference, we kind of have to stick to a schedule. And so my suggestion would be in that last 5 minute slot, you actually take maybe 2 of those minutes and you leave 3 minutes there, and you actually put ARB questions. And that allows you to ask a question or 2 of one thing that you weren't quite clear when the citizen and or the district presented something. You're like, when you were on comp number 2, can you explain to me whatever? Or Mr. Citizen, can you show us the picture again of that and describe what that is? You know, because very often there's questions at that time, and by the time you're at the end, we don't really have a legal right to actually, you know, like there's times where it would be very advantageous, like for you to know that information right after the presentation and the rebuttal. But I mean, it's up to you.
No, I think that's a good
agree, but
idea.
So it'd be item number 5. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and it would be item number 5.
We would add an item and it would be for 3 minutes. And then we would actually do ARB deliberation. We would just reduce to 2 minutes, down to 2 minutes.
I don't
I
know
think
about
2
that.
minutes for questions.
Maybe 2 and
3 minutes
3.
for-
You like the 2 and 3?
Well, ours never go 2 or 3 minutes.
Sometimes it takes us a little while, because
We always go over.
This is a guideline. I mean,
Yeah.
my point is
I'm
that,
good with the 2 and 3 minutes.
Rather than slicing and dicing too thin, could we just say, hey, our deliberations and questions and kind of roll it all into one and?
it's the procedure. So what we're actually trying to do, or this is up to you, it's your call. What we're actually trying to do is actually put ARB questions in the procedure, right? So I present, the citizen cross-examines, the citizen presents, I cross-examine, and that would be a really good time, in my opinion, for y'all to ask
I
questions.
think that's a great idea.
or even what if we put opportunity for questions from AR?
If we go, and if we don't have questions, then we just move on.
Sometimes
That's
we
right.
just go ahead and ask them anyway. I mean, I've asked questions in the middle of procedure.
And that's the idea, is that when we have the opportunity to ask questions at that
We
point,
need to
Not
stop
me,
that, is what
not
I'm saying.
me, Mike.
well, and here's my point, because there has been times, I know it's probably been a frustration from the citizen standpoint. It's definitely been a frustration of mine, because when you ask questions at the end, and I've already said my 1 minute closing, I don't get to say, whoa, wait a second. I don't get to say anything else. But when you ask questions in the middle of the thing, at least I get to address it one more time. I either get to answer your question, or at least I get to address it in the 1 minute closing.
So do they, so does the other.
Yeah, and they would as well. But
And I think it helps us too,
to formulate
to
your
go
thought,
ahead and start, thinking about what we need to know in order to make the most fair decision.
I think that's correct. And that's the reason I'm bringing it to your attention. So
I
if
think
you-
it's a great idea, and I would be in favor of 2 minutes and then 3 minutes of closing.
And you
I
put it
agree.
after the protester cross-examine or district cross-examine.
It'd be after the protester cross-examination.
So it'd be the 5th item.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
The only problem I have is that this represents a major procedural change to the template.
I don't think that's a problem, let's just change it.
to what template? To this, right?
The template that's put forth in the training manual. This whole thing came from this whole procedure came from a template that was provided
Oh, okay.
for us.
But I don't think that it's
And-
mandatory. I think it was an
Oh,
example.
it was made pretty, this guy this year was pretty definitive.
Does
in
it
the
say in the manual that it's mandatory that you follow that particular?
I'm not sure the word is mandatory, but it's very close to that. They put that in there and they expect us to do it that way. And
Okay.
nobody, I mean, the odds of someone actually calling us out on it are slim to none.
Right.
Yeah,
Like with all these things, I mean,
I don't know
Who's
if you
gonna call you
noticed,
out on
I don't
it?
know if you noticed, but there was many times, and maybe this is a way that we could do it in keeping it the same way. But I don't know if you noticed, but if I finished early with either a cross time or an examination time, I often said that if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those questions right now.
Yeah.
Because really, it gave me an opportunity to know, to really answer those questions. Because if I don't get to
We have
answer them,
them then, that's a good time for us to ask questions.
Right.
I think.
to do it informally I think is one thing. To document it as part of the procedure, if that document were to get to PTAD, if they were awake, they may fuss
Well,
at
as
it.
long as we're still allowed to ask questions and not say, okay, you can't do that, you have to wait till the end. I've been told that, so. We've
Well-
asked questions in the middle of the hearing.
Yeah, but you're-
I have. Right, no.
but you're not supposed to,
Not
according to
supposed
this.
That's right.
Yeah, we're supposed to be passive listeners until the end.
Okay.
But
All right.
But the way you've been doing it, I think is fine. If you pause and say, do you have any questions? That's,
Then you open it and we're okay with it.
All right.
Yeah.
That's kind of, let's not change it officially then. Okay. It's good discussion. So now we're back to the hearing preamble revision 6, or did we already cover that, Val?
Pages 6 and 7? No, where are we now?
You hit back and you see, where you see the two.
Hearing preamble revision 6 is the new preamble, which follows from the procedures changes that we made.
We already discussed that.
Yeah, this is my speech that comes,
Yeah.
ahead of time. Well, that comes from the procedures document. So, yeah, we basically covered all the ground.
Okay.
I had to add at the end of the hearing property owner agent document indicating the members. And that's basically the only change.
Okay. So you're,
Now have we finished the procedures?
I think you're done with, item number 5 in the agenda.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have to have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve all of the suggested changes in our hearing procedures in order to best serve the public.
And do I have a second?
Second that.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Done. Next one is,
Presentation, and action of the chief appraiser's motions to correct roll. Val, which one is that item?
Right, that's the chief appraiser motions, and it is number 6.
So it's in the, number 6.
You go back.
VI.
I didn't say it, Val. I saw it. No, I was.
All right, so I'm gonna just, if you flip it up ways, you can actually see the chief appraiser's motions to correct the appraisal roll. And these are motions to correct. There's a section of the code that allows the correction for roll, and I have to notify you when I've done so. So on this one, it was a clerical. The very first one is Bellevue Block 391. 643B Rose Street. There was a clerical error that in regard to an exemption, DD2 was assigned back in 2008 for disability, should have been a DD3. The difference was reduction in the taxing unit. It's specified there. So it was a correction as far as an exemption change. The very next one is the chief appraiser's motion to correct Manning. It's 804 San Antonio Street. This was a manufactured home, was carried on the appraisal roll. However, it belongs to FEMA. The ownership is being corrected for the 2019 year, and of course they're non-taxable. So I changed that.
So, I mean, does the house stay FEMA?
If it was owned by FEMA and it was like in and out, like the whole time it belonged to FEMA and I had it in the ownership of somebody else, then that's not correct. So that's what I
But
changed.
it's on the people's property.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like, it'd be like if I put my mobile home on your property,
Yeah.
I would be the owner of the mobile home. I just happen to be FEMA in this case. Makes sense.
I have issues with that, but okay.
Yeah, they're not taxable.
I think they don't tell the people that it is theirs while it probably ends up being theirs.
But in this case, it wasn't. It was a FEMA-owned trailer that they got to live in, and then they took the.
It was taken back off.
Taken back.
Oh, okay. Then that one, okay.
So in this, the very next one is 418 Rabbit Run. This looks like it was a property that was damaged by Hurricane Harvey. Had over 65 an exemption in place. The original mobile home was replaced with another mobile home, which was bigger and better per property tax code 2323F, sections 2A and B, in which the freezes should have been broken in 18. The value is designated for new in 2018 was an error. So we didn't check the box. So we had to check the box. We had to correct that error for 2018 and 19. Basically, it's a bigger and better situation, 2323F. Next property is 601 Broadway Street in Fulton. Again, damaged by Hurricane Harvey, over 65 exemption, same situation in which they had a 2323F. Should have been, it was replaced Property was rebuilt as better per property tax code 2323 F2 A and B. So, do the correction there. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call. All right, so next one is 5866 Highway 35 North, apartment 101. Same situation. Had a 65 ceiling set at 18. New value checkbox was not checked under the improvements. This resulted in an incorrect tax ceiling for homestead cap in 2019, and it tells you the correction there. Next one is 2250 Kirby Road. This was a property damaged by Hurricane Harvey disability in 2017. The new home was built and was complete to 50% in 19, but no new value was added. The ceiling should have increased in 2019. Again, it's the checkbox. That was corrected. 109 Yea Pond Street. Property improvement for $43,300, not designated as a homestead. This was a continuance due to Hurricane Harvey. Homestead box for 2019 to correct the error. So it was including the homestead group on that one, Val?
It just simply, I don't think the homestead group was involved, but
Okay.
Yeah.
So we applied a homestead?
yes, it needed to be a homestead.
All right. And that's the last one. Those are my motions to correct.
So do I need to make a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion based upon what was put before us by the chief appraiser that we accept the corrections to the roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. VII?
The presentation and action on current and prior year supplements. What's the best one of these to look at, Val? Is it the,
Well, the
Is it the-
certified role changes is an overview, and then the supplement details gives you the property owners and the difference in the values for each one. So one's very detailed, one's just general.
all right, so let's go to certified role changes for groups here. This is a summary. So there's groups 283, 284, 386, 287, 288, 289, 290, 291, 292, 293, 294, 295. So you can see in those groups that they affect, like group 283 is a good example. It affects years 2015, 16, 17, and 19. In where you see the value in red, there was a value loss. Or if you see a value in black, if I'm reading this right, Val, that's an increase.
Yes, if
Okay.
it doesn't have parentheses.
Right. So all of these changes are in the actual other one, which is called the supplement detail. So you can look at that one too, but this is just the overall summary right here. So each one of these has value changes associated with something that went on. So like 289 is a really good one. That was a litigation. That was a lawsuit that was handled. It was finally settled with O'Connor for several properties. There was a $618,710 loss. Chief appraiser motion for a valuation, mobile home removed. That might have been the FEMA one that we were just talking about. Right. Business closures. Sometimes we get renditions for people late, and they said, "Listen, I wasn't open in 19. I wasn't open in 18." You know, we get some of these things late. So business closures on group 292, homestead caps. Again, stuff that was added to the roll where we didn't check the box and we needed to add that new value to the roll. This is just a summary. The other, which is called supplement detail for groups 283 through 295, that's the actual listing of all the properties. And this is actually the supplemental code. So you'll see 25, 25C or B or D with each one of those. So that's the section of the code that we use to actually change the role. Robert, what we just did just a minute ago, where we actually handed the role and said, these are the captured values. At that point, it either has to be settled or it has to be handled in here through an ARB proceeding. At the end of the season, we do a certified role and we say, okay, this is what we started with, this is what we finished with, and then I hand that role to the entities. Any changes after that have to be presented in either a chief appraiser motion, which I just did, or a role like this. And many of these are just exemptions. Is that right, Val? 25, 20 Bravos. Many of these are just late application exemptions.
Is there any significance to the group number, or is that just a numerical?
That's a numerical in-house system. Like basically,
Okay.
it's just the way our computer handles, like it just assigns a new number.
Okay.
So Mike, in the ones where, especially where it goes back, well, actually these, it shows things, but, okay, so let's just take 283
Okay, the summary.
and it goes to the 219,780, right?
I'm going there. 283.
Right, that's the total of all of those.
Right, that's the
Changes.
total. That's the
Okay.
total for that group.
Right, so then if they've already paid their taxes,
Those individuals will get a refund for the difference in the taxation.
Yeah.
That's handled through the tax office. That's the way supplement works. It's actually, so the roll is kind of, remember how we talked about the roll? It's
You
like
do the
boxed
roll,
up
they
and then
do-
we seal it.
right,
And when we crack it open to take a document out, we have to have something that says, what are we taking out? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Right.
When we get that piece of, digitally get that piece of paper, it goes to the tax office, says, okay, this property owner deserved an exemption, or this property owner had too much of an exemption, or didn't have the cap right. It's either pluses or minuses, and we send that to the tax office. They either do the supplemental bill or they give a refund.
because these are the amounts of the exemption, they're not the amount of the bill. Or are they the amount of the bill?
This is the amount of the value that's changed.
Right, so which is different from the amount of taxes
Yeah.
And
paid.
that's all handled right there. I mean, we don't even
They
concern,
don't handle it.
we don't even concern
I'm
ourselves
just
with,
clarifying
yeah, we don't concern ourselves with,
how it computes out.
only to the extent that we're trying to do the freezes calculations correctly.
Right,
And you know, the homestead caps correctly. We're trying, I mean, I don't want to give the air that like we don't care. We definitely care. But once we've said the value change, or once we've done the
and
exemption
it's there.
change, then we send that information digitally over to the tax office, and they either send an additional bill or they send it, they give them money because they pay too much. I mean, one of those two things happen.
Got it.
All right, that's it.
Motion
Oh,
to accept?
I make a motion that we accept the supplement detail for groups 283 through 295 that was presented to us by the chief appraiser at the appraisal district.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
What did you just give me now?
That is the document you signed then, once it's been approved.
Oh, okay.
Number V111.
Oh man, she made it spicy. She did numbers and letters.
Trying to make it easy.
That's right. Hearing, set a hearing date for postponed hearings originally scheduled for April 14th.
All it says on mine is there dates good, hearings to be scheduled.
Yes, and we'll talk about it more when we look at how we're gonna set up the hearings for the summer. Right now, in looking at it, we've got Pritchard and Abbott coming in the morning of the 5th at 9 a.m. of June 5th. And if I got notices out to the people today, we could actually hear those 8 cases on Friday afternoon of June 5th, if that was acceptable. Otherwise, I think we could just go ahead and look at our schedules and fit it in wherever y'all wanted to and looking at the whole picture.
These 5 that we have that were delayed, do we have any idea how they would answer the question in person or phone?
No, we would send them the same hearing request and give them an option to do in-person, telephone, or video conference. They were scheduled for in-person before. And so we could reach out to them if the ARB wanted us to reach out to them and ask them to do a video conference or a telephone conference, we would do that on your behalf. But otherwise,
we're not gonna be doing it in person for
right,
a while.
right.
So they have to realize that they're either going to wait a determinate amount of time or do something by phone.
This Pritchard and Abbott, is this from, like things from last year, or is it this year?
This year.
Okay.
Pritchard and Abbott's this year. And most of Pritchard and Abbott stuff's gonna be agent
Right,
handled.
right.
And they're all about video conference. They're all about dialing in, telephone conference. They're not gonna wanna be here.
There are 4 cases that Pritchard and Abbott are hearing this summer. Remember that AXIP that we didn't hear earlier. So there are some 2019.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Okay.
So these 8 that are supposed to be scheduled, who are these?
There's ones that in February, they had sent letters saying, we didn't protest on time, but we want to have a hearing, and the board approved doing late hearings for them. We had them set for April 14th.
Right.
And then we sent them letters saying, we're not gonna do that.
I'll present information at that time because the citizen's not present, but I'll present information at that time that's relevant to those cases.
Now, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize, so you've already set a date that you will not hear hearings in person before that date? I didn't.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Have you set a date for when you'll start hearings in person?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. So June the 5th, because you know that it could.
June the 5th, we're going to,
Pritchard and Abbott.
June the 5th is gonna be Pritchard and Abbott, and it's gonna be telephone here.
They want to do telephone. Got it.
And usually they work everything out. So,
Right.
Do we need to put that on our schedule already?
Yeah, the June the 5th is just a date and time that I have to pick in the notice process that says we're gonna start hearing protests for the 2020 season. And I have to do it on the note, like it has to be on the notice. So on everybody's notice this year, it actually has June 5th as the protest start. June 3rd? Sorry, June 3rd. Thank you, Val. June 3rd. So we selected that date. We just said, hey, that's the first time that the board will meet and start to meet. But when we say meet, it's meet virtually. It's meet through telephone conference, because we're going to, if we receive a notice and it says in person in there, the very first thing that we're going to do, just like we do for everybody else, we're going to pick up the phone. Hey, what's your issue? See if we can work it out. Can't work it out? No problem. We're going to put that person to the side and get the next one that says they want a video conference. And guess who's going to be scheduled on the 5th? The very first one that asked for a video conference or telephone conference. That's how we're going to do it internally.
But June the 3rd is when actually Pritchard and Abbott.
No, they're the 5th.
They're the 5th.
But
June the 3rd is the first day you could have a hearing.
That's
Right.
correct.
Got
And that's
it.
why we're saying that those 8 people that we did before, we could do 4 of those hearings on the 3rd if we wanted to. Is that right? Because 4 of them were Pritchard and Abbott people anyway.
No, there's 8 hearings that were gonna happen on April 14th that need to happen. And none of them are Pritchard and Abbott.
Got it. Okay, so there's
So we
8
just-
people.
Yeah.
8 people that we could hear on the 3rd right now. Like, you should. If you should get that one out of the way, because they're old. They're old.
Those are old.
Those are old ones.
Well, when I counted up on the calendar though, for the 15 days, and I don't know if it really matters in this case because we've noticed them once already. But June the 5th would be the first day that the 15 days would sandwich in if I were to send something out today.
There you go. So June the 5th would be the day. And that's why she mentioned that June the 5th on the afternoon, because we already have Pritchard and Abbott in the morning. the June the 5th in the afternoon, we could do the 8th. You should do that.
I agree.
Yeah,
June the 5th.
June.
June the 5th in the afternoon. The morning is Richard Abbott.
Morning is Pritchard and Abbott, and the afternoon is the 8 properties or 8 property owners.
Something else that I just thought of, you and I are around each other all the time, like we're like family. So I'm okay if you and I sit together, if that would help with the distancing, because I'm around her all the time without a mask, all the time. So if that will help the spacing,
Yeah, if y'all were both over there,
yeah, I mean,
Then you
I
can
would
have
be
more.
fine sitting right next to her.
you need to know.
I don't
You-
want to sit in the back of the class, Cindy, I'm okay with that.
She thought she was gonna get to, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna stay up here with us.
You need to know that, Val has had her mask on all meeting. I've failed on mine. Here internally at the district, we've not worn masks. We've taken, hand washing precautions. We've had the whole thing with, if you feel sick or if you even start to feel sick, stay at home. Like the whole
Yes,
thing,
definitely.
stay at home. We did take temperatures of everybody of the staff members today, just so that you would have some level of whatever comfort that is to you, that we were all within range of the temperature.
And that was good, thank you for that.
We did that for our staff. We did that for you as well. Everybody was within range. You need to know that I don't want to have conversations with this on. I don't.
Sometimes you can't hear.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know Kathy has problems hearing anyway.
Yeah. But I'm gonna do what you want to do. And that's the reason that we did the whole video conference thing to begin with, is one, to meet the Open Meetings Act, but then to run through an example of what that would look like. You didn't even see it on your screen, but it would actually, you would have another pad that all you would see is the screen. And you'd see that same screen that we popped up for just a minute. And you'd be able to toggle back and forth and see who's talking or whatever. That's all that it is. If you want to do stuff at home, you can, but it would be easier if we had one piece of paper and y'all all signed and we all gave it to Val at the end of the day. And she got all those orders and determining,
I just feel like people are gonna, wanna be here to do it. But maybe I'm wrong.
I hope that that's not the case, because the level of protection that I'm requiring from my staff, that decision-making process involves one in which you take the public out. See, if it's just you,
That's one deal.
that's one deal. But when you add a public member who, who is, like you indicated, like who is from San Antonio or Austin or some other place.
You wouldn't believe the people that are from out of town.
Yeah. And I mean, not only just from a health standpoint, I don't want to get sick. I don't want any of my staff members, I don't want y'all to get sick. But then you look at the second problem with that is that now I'm quarantined for 2 weeks. And now this whole July 20th thing just got creamed. It got trashed. And I'm trying to avoid that as much as I can practically do that. So.
Let me tell you, the reason that I have a problem with doing the meetings here is because
Me.
you and Cindy deal with the public.
Yeah.
And you don't know where they came from or what their situation is.
I agree, I do agree.
And that's troublesome.
Oh, I know,
I don't know about you guys. I don't know what dealings you have with other people. I've been keeping a very low profile.
I have too, but I'm comfortable, even if you've been maybe exposed, that I'm distanced, I'm washing my hands, I'm comfortable.
And also, I mean, I wear a mask when I'm there, and I mean, I wash my hands like,
Hands are raw.
if I even like if somebody gets within 2 feet of me, I mean, I run right over to the sink. And they're really adhering to that there.
You have the ability, see these Zoom conference things, we can have one Zoom that's running for people that are here. And let's say that you wanted to be home, like it just makes it easier on you or easier on,
Yeah, I mean, and
whomever.
And
Then
that
you,
would be good at staying home, you know, so if Charlie.
No,
needed
and
to
I
be up
understand,
here-
right, I mean,
That would be good,
he has the,
because then
I
we could give you another
I
pad.
totally,
You would
that
be able
is your
to have
right,
your
like,
PDF.
I'm not trying
And
to
then on
fight
this
you
side-
at all. I want you to,
On this side, you would
that's
have your
important
Zoom,
that you,
and you can do it. You could participate. You'd be
Yeah.
fine. We would just go collect your signature pages at the end of the day. It's not a big deal.
No,
So
You
the
can do
rest
it
of
however
us
you
could-
want to. You could do a mixture of the two.
We could be split then.
Right.
Some of us could be
Yes.
here.
I agree.
I would rather be here. quite
I
frankly.
I would too. The other thing, and this, I really get your point about if one of your staff gets infected, that's,
I mean, that's
That's
the whole,
disastrous,
I mean,
yeah.
that's closing
That's-
down the whole business.
but the whole
I mean, office.
6 or 7 of us being online, internet working for all day. I just, during my working career, the telemeeting kind of thing, there's always glitches, there's always people dropping off.
Some
There's
people
always-
can't see
and
other
I think
people.
that would
hear
really
other
slow us
people,
down.
or Cindy hits a button.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even throw into the mix the tropical depressions and power outages, you know. Yeah, that's right.
Rockport, Texas, I mean, you know, our internet here is horrific and it's been bad
I was
lately.
gonna say,
Well,
and then we have internet problems.
so
I'm
But
not
that's okay.
comfortable with you guys being here.
You're uncomfortable.
Because you have been careful and you are
We tried.
studious about.
you said you are comfortable?
I am.
Okay.
But
But-
I, you know, I
You know,
mean,
if you're not, I mean, you just need to understand, first of all, this meeting is your meeting, and I'm just along for the ride for the supplemental role changes that, you know, like I'm submitting the capture.
I'm good
but-
with doing whatever anybody
Right.
else do.
If you want to do a mixture of the two, you great. You know, y'all talk amongst yourselves and decide what you want to do.
I'm okay with being here, you know, so it's like whatever, but, you know, a mixture I think would be good, because then if you weren't comfortable with it, then you could, but I personally will come up here, cause I wanna hear what they have to say, you know, I'm better in person.
I'm not you, but.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Charlie, so you're the one that has a problem with them. being
which, and I
on the phone.
understand.
And I understand too.
And this weekend is gonna be interesting.
Oh my God.
I had a conversation last evening with Pat, and he is disturbed by the fact that there was another one added to the list
Yes,
Yeah, I saw
yesterday.
that.
yesterday.
But that was that
Yeah.
80-year-old man,
Another
Yeah.
man,
60,
60 years old,
16.
60.
60.
The person was 60, but it's one person.
Yeah.
So we've had 3.
80,
cases.
and no, we have an 80-year-old man and a 60-year-old man. We have 2 new cases.
They didn't, the 80-year-old they haven't put on the list because he came from the hospital in Corpus with it. They brought him to a rehab facility here and didn't test him.
Oh.
And so they didn't add that to our numbers. So the
And
what
they're-
happened with the
And they're looking
60?
at 2
That's
or
all we
3.
found out.
See, y'all,
They're
y'all work
looking,
together? You in the city?
Sorry, looking.
Oh, okay.
they're looking at 2 or 3 more.
Well, then, if y'all are, a mixture would be good. You know, if y'all 3 were here and you 2 were distance, that would work really fine. You'd be able to have a Zoom, where we could project the Zoom, you know,
Mhm.
you could toggle back and forth, and here's the, you know, you have the evidence in
You
front of
can-
you, you know,
You can put chiclets up, right?
you can what?
Put chiclets up?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can have the Zoom meeting, you can do all the
Right.
faces all at once, yeah.
All at once.
I
with
believe
a
so.
yellow box around the one that's talking.
Right, that's what the
I
Zoom
believe
is.
so.
It
Yeah.
shows it, yeah.
So if we're here, we
I have an
will
account,
see
it's not a paid
you
account.
and hear you and see you, or if whoever's not here.
Yeah.
See you
You'll
and
see
hear
me
you.
on the
Your
screen.
face would be up there,
Yeah.
and be talking to you rather than just not
I
being.
just make sure my house is clean.
You can put a blanket up, we've done that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
All right, well, between
Last
now
time
and
I
then,
did that, I was 18.
between now and then, y'all just need to make those decisions and let us know how you'd like to proceed so that we can get
Well, we
you.
don't really have that much time.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, we can give you all the, we can give you these, we can check these out to you, put numbers on them or
Just,
whatever.
just
How
set
how
me,
long?
just set me up for Zoom at home.
Okay,
That way Charlie can come in
Well,
And
then I'll do Zoom too, but can we do it together? Cause I just,
I don't know that we can do it together.
Ramona, sometimes I hit the wrong, you know, I mean, I don't know. At our house, it ends up getting screwed and you know that.
Yeah.
Well,
I
if you're
prefer to be
comfortable
here,
coming,
so I'll
you're not comfortable.
Sounds good.
Right.
Well, no, so that way, see, the three of y'all can be here. And then, cause Charlie's the chairman, I agree with you. That, I mean, I think it'd be more important that the chairman be here.
He needs to be.
Right. So then you and I, if we're not
Yeah.
here, it's not an issue.
Amy?
We'll just do it on
The
Zoom.
person that night would only have to stop at one house, pick up stuff. You'd have to deal with Lucy.
The Zoom
I
meetings,
love Lucy.
the Zoom meetings, just so you know, so the people that are here, we're all like recorded on one Zoom. And we would all look at one Zoom and we would all speak into the microphone with one microphone.
Right.
So, and in different places, y'all would have your own individual. It's not meant for, like, I can't have Zoom and you can't have Zoom in the same room individually, because then you get the echo and the other stuff. So,
Is that right? You've tried that? 2 computers in the same room?
I'm sorry.
You've tried that with 2 computers in the same room?
Yeah, we've actually had 2 of these fire tablets at once on Zoom, and it's horrible because all you hear is echo and reverberation.
Really?
So we could have two, one of them with the sound off.
Is
So that way and one of them with the sound
They
on.
wouldn't be able to hear the other person.
So
Isn't there a function?
If we're
Isn't there a
sitting
function
together,
Okay,
Of non-echo
okay, so there is for a single device.
for a
The-
single?
The hitch to all of this is that we're required to record the hearings,
Right.
and that recording has to be done in this room on this computer.
Right.
As a result of that, this microphone cannot be turned off. And when the people call in, we want to hear them, so these speakers can't be turned off.
Right.
So if anybody else has a second microphone or speaker in this room, it's going to start screeching like crazy. If
And
they're
this
not
is-
in this room, it's fine.
If I were to set up
but if you're
two
not in this room, it's fine.
computers in my house,
Mhm.
1 tablet and 1 computer, that would not interfere with each other.
They would.
They would.
They would.
You have to turn the sound.
I'd have to turn the sound
so
off.
you just turn the
mute-
sound off
mute
on one.
The thing is, if you talk into one of them, the other one has to be both muted and it has to have the microphone and the speaker turned off. You have to make sure
Yeah.
both of them are off.
So if we're
But I
sitting
mean,
right
one
next
to-
to each other.
But if, I mean, we're just using one to look
Yeah.
at,
Yes.
one to zoom with. I
Yeah.
mean, one to talk with.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be fine. That would be fine. So y'all are going to be in the same place.
Yes.
So what
But
they're
not
doing- So
here.
here's the idea.
That will be
Amy-
easy.
Amy came in late. Charlie, Kathy, and Robert are gonna come here to this location. We're gonna use that microphone. We're gonna project the Zoom here. We're all gonna talk to one thing. We're all gonna be able to hear one thing. And it's very possible either they're gonna be in different locations or in one location and using one device.
Okay. Well, I'll talk with you all about how we want to set that up because it's not, it can get complicated and there's like some hurdles to setting it up.
Amy
You know
can
what I
walk
mean?
you through it.
It's,
He's really good.
yeah, I mean, like just making it to where it works. It's what you're trying to do is kind of a challenging thing. You know, you're trying to video into a meeting that's happening somewhere else. It's not super simple. For example, if you have if you're both in the same place and you use one of these fire tablets, you probably will have a hard time hearing because the speaker on these tablets is not very loud. So
Even if I attach a speaker to it, would that help?
you would have to attach a speaker to it.
You
Yeah.
would have?
Mhm.
Okay. I got it.
It's that kind of thing. There's just like a million little things that we'll have to figure out.
You know
So
what? But the speaker's gonna echo through, it's gonna be picked up in the microphone.
not if it's plugged into the one that has the microphone on it.
But if they're both trying to listen, remember we did the whole, we were able to plug in a
Headphones is
headphone and
way
you're able
better.
to hear just fine.
Yeah.
But if there's 2 of them in the same location, that may be challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're in the same location, it's going to need to be one, portal to the meeting. That's going to be the way to do it. because
So that's okay. We don't each have to show, I was saying 2 devices because if, you know, we both needed to whatever, but as long as you've
Yeah.
got us both in the one thing, showing that we're proving that we're actually there and involved.
So, yeah, we're just gonna have to work through the dynamics of them being separate or them being together.
yeah, I mean, the easiest way to do that is just going to be giving you both 2 tablets.
But that's the
2
best
for
way,
you,
'cause like
2
if
for
I go
you.
somewhere, she goes
And if
somewhere.
the 4th one doesn't get used, fine. That's
But
fine.
then both getting headphones so they can hear.
Yeah, you could, and if you're sitting in the same room, you can attach speakers to it and it'll be okay. The software for Zoom will cancel the audio that it knows is being put out by its own speakers. That's why we don't get any echo here.
Oh,
So I can set up a Bluetooth speaker on here.
I hope so. I'm not sure about how well it works with Bluetooth because there is a little delay there, but I know that it works with headphones or plug-in speakers.
So we have headphones. I mean,
Yeah.
we got earbuds, right? We can use those.
Yeah, but you'll need, yeah, we'll
get the-
figure it out.
We'll get the stuff that's required.
Yeah.
We will get the stuff that's required.
Yeah,
And
we'll
we'll give it to you.
we already have headphones for you guys if y'all need them. But yeah, I'll give one of those to each of y'all. And the Fire tablets that you use for evidence should continue to sync correctly with the Amazon Drive so that everybody has the evidence. One of the things that we were aiming for in setting up the tablets is to not have that's Charlie's tablet, that's Robert's tablet, because then you're locked into using a particular one, and it's a lot better if everybody just picks up a tablet and they're all identical. And I think that can be maintained. You will just have to mark which ones are, use this one for your
Yes, yes.
video and audio.
Or
You know.
You're not using the Wi-Fi connections in the house?
You will be using the internet at your house.
So
Yes.
that you still have, they are customized, because you still have to put key in.
Yes. Yep. It'll need to be connected to whatever network it is. But I'm saying we don't have to have a separate Amazon account or a separate the device doesn't have to be like you don't have to put documents to it knowing this is going to Charlie's thing. It could be.
No, but it does have to be Charlie's tablet, because it'll have my key in.
No, it's just when you get, like, you could take this one or that one to your house, and when you got there, you would have to connect to your Wi-Fi, but you would have to connect to your Wi-Fi anyway.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if I put my key in and say, connect automatically, which I do with my laptop and stuff.
If they want a specific one.
Yeah.
that's fine.
Well, the main thing is going to be that when we have one set up
I'm gonna put my name on
to do the video correctly, you're not going to want to mess with it. Once it's good, it'll be pretty
There's gonna be
easy.
color on it, I can guarantee you.
We'll
First,
have
it's gonna have
wigs
color. It's gonna
on.
have colors and butterflies. Maybe those little dangly feet of, what are those chanclas, those little sandals?
Yeah.
I could see that. All right, we're getting off topic here.
No, we're not totally off the topic.
Mhm.
If I do it at home, I'm gonna use my computer.
Okay, that's great. I
for
assume
the-
you would.
for
I
the,
thought you were gonna come here. I thought it was gonna be, I thought you were gonna be here.
It depends on what happens in the outside world. It
Mhm.
really does. I mean, if the count gets too high in Aransas County, I'm gonna stay in the house. I mean, that's the way life is.
Sure.
And I would
Pat,
probably do the same thing.
If Pat's concerned about it and can't give any indication of when he's gonna open up the offices over there, I understand.
So we,
City office.
City office.
City
Pat
office.
Rios.
Pat Rios.
Pat Rios.
Pat Rios, a friend of mine, he lives in Harbor Oaks, and I called him last night and said, what do you think? And he said, I think we have a problem. Why do we have a problem? He said, well, we got another case or two, and that have been identified, and we got 2 or 3 that we're investigating.
And if you just looked at this last weekend, there were not locals running around.
Yeah.
There was people from out of town.
Well, look what's gonna happen this weekend.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean, this weekend's gonna be a disaster.
So the point is, it's in flux. We have a representative here that's pretty good technically, and he can walk you through the process, and if he has to physically, like, okay, he can actually do a FaceTime with you or something like that. Okay, and you point it this way, hook that in, walk, I mean, he's really good at this stuff, so.
And if you are at your house and you're remoting in, because one of our requirements here is to provide the materials and things that you need in order to operate as a board, we have to provide headphones in order to hear well, tablets to use for tablets to use for video calling. But that being said, if you have a superior setup at your house that you'd rather use, like I assumed you would, that you have a webcam, you have a chair that's comfortable, and you've done this kind of thing, it's fine. You can use that. We just have to be able to make sure that you can't say, be stuck being like, well, I can't fulfill my duties. I don't have the equipment. That's the thing. We'll be giving them to you. I'm just saying, if you're at your house and you say, this is annoying, I have a good setup on my laptop or whatever, you could use that if you want. It's totally fine, because Zoom is just a third party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy, if
Yes.
there's one or two things, either you want to use your stuff, great. We'll try to help you augment whatever you need to make it
Well,
work.
I had my computer, I'd still need this.
Right, or the second one, or you would have two of these. One is for the Zoom, one is for the PDF evidence. And you would have that all day long. And they would be on this little stand, and they would be plugged in, and they'd be connected to your Wi-Fi, and you're good.
Yeah, but he mentioned if he was at home, he said I'd be on my computer. That's fine. That's totally fine. And if I was at home, if I was one of y'all doing this, I would be on my computer as well. I'd just be using my computer setup. Yeah.
Well, we can use the Mac, my Mac. I love it.
But you need to understand that these setups are pretty good.
I like these.
Sure.
These are good.
I will.
You'd have one for the Zoom, you'd have another one right next to it for the PDF,
Yeah.
you'd be perfect. You set them up, you put your Wi-Fi password in, and
I like this one. It says FBI surveillance ban.
that's right.
Yep.
All right, then we'll use this, because you're gonna touch the buttons, not me.
You wouldn't, it's only if you want to use your computer, it's just a preference thing, Kathy.
Yeah.
Just, do you like orange ice cream or vanilla, it doesn't matter, whatever you want.
I like chocolate.
If he can help us.
Yep.
End up at home.
Eamon,
Yep.
if you're gonna tell us what you want to do. Eamon's gonna help you run through it beforehand, like before the day, he's gonna test you,
Okay, just set me up, Eamon.
Yep. No problem. No problem.
But until such time, Charlie, when is our first meeting? Is that July?
The third.
June 5th.
June fifth.
Well, could possibly be the third, right?
You don't know yet whether you're gonna be available to be here on June fifth.
What day of the
No,
week
that's
is the
right.
third?
I think that's a fair,
Wednesday.
I think it's a fair statement. I mean, I'm gonna try to be here. I'm gonna try to do my best.
5th is Friday.
But, yes, right.
But remember, we've got those other cases, the 8 from
That would be the
2019.
afternoon of that day.
Yeah,
So
you're doing the
Friday
5th.
is just.
So we should mark off the fifth pretty much.
Yeah.
Try to have the
Yeah.
morning and the afternoon.
Yeah, the 5th is the day.
The
Just-
afternoon would be those 8, the morning would be P and A.
Sounds good to me.
When do we?
In answer to your question, I don't know the answer. I mean, I would prefer to be here, but if things get
Yeah.
dicey,
I don't
especially
mind
after this weekend, I may just Zoom it.
Yeah, you need to,
If you're not here, then probably.
that's why
It
I'm
would
saying
be
we
easier.
should all
Robert,
get
you
set
can
up.
come, we'd love to have you.
I'm just saying we should all get set up, because in case something does.
Sure, we can do
I-
that too.
That would be
Sure.
I
smart,
think that's probably a good idea.
because if the numbers start going berserk, then you may
Yeah.
make
And,
the
and,
choice.
there's tons of people from out of town. They
Just let us
can't
know.
stay home.
Just, we've purchased additional devices here so that you could have a Zoom and a thing. But, if you'd rather use your computer and Amy can walk you through that process, then if we could, save that $400 or $500, whatever it was, then by all means, let's not use, because they're in the boxes still.
So the computer would be used for the Zoom and this would be used for the.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Documents.
The fire tablets are,
To see
Yes.
evidence.
Sure. You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So I could use our computer and this,
Mhm.
use the computer for Zoom. and
Right,
this.
or
yes.
you can have two of them. Now, we're gonna make it work.
Now, what about the procedure times? Do you wanna have that on as a checklist?
I don't, because it's been given to the property owner.
So we're gonna depend on that, that's okay, I mean, we just need to.
Well, Cindy's
understand.
gonna be regulating that, right?
No,
You're still gonna have to regulate the time.
Yeah.
You have to have a timer.
yeah,
Yeah, we still have a timer, so you're okay with them having coffee? Okay,
yeah, I don't know why, I
that's
mean,
cool,
yeah, no.
well, because we have it on the wall here,
Well, and it
we
comes in
always
the
have it
packet.
visible to us.
Okay, so when we do a telephone, let me ask you a question. When we do a telephone conference,
Yeah.
you ask the question, did you receive the?
Yeah,
And then you say, can you pull out the?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing.
Yes. okay.
And I think maybe the one thing, Charlie, you may want to, because if they say, I didn't see it, then I don't think, because we did mail it, I don't think it's our responsibility to get a copy it, but I think he needs to be prepared to say, what you get to do is choose, there'll be some back and forth and we time it. You get to choose, do you want to go first or do
Right.
you want the district to go first?
Sure, and
Just in case they say they haven't, and
and
then,
if they haven't got it, I'll just have to quickly read down through the first few items and say, we'll walk you through it as we go.
right.
Sure. And there's no problem with you taking this thing and instead of your face, you just go like this
Yeah,
and you keep talking. If you look at item number 2, it says that it's
Yeah.
the protester cross-examination time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a brave new world. We'll just try to take it as it
and
comes.
it's the truth.
We're gonna do our best.
All right, so at this point, it says set hearing dates for postpone originally. So we did that.
We
on the
did that.
5th.
Yeah.
And then, so we moved on to action item IX,
That's right.
and one X. And then, so we did the housekeeping already.
Well,
We did the Zoom.
And we did this,
we haven't done the housekeeping already.
okay, so tell me what you'd like to talk about in the housekeeping.
Okay, to set the calendar, decide how many days and what days we're gonna meet over this summer, and how many cases we want on each docket. In the past, we've always had 8 cases per docket for people who are no-shows. I don't know with the technology and all of that, I am of the opinion that we'd be a lot better off to schedule 5 cases per docket.
We don't have that flexibility. We don't have that luxury.
So if you go to your housekeeping items for hearing schedule, I put some statistics from last year. We heard 420 cases, 581 hearings were scheduled, and 161 were no-shows. So 28% were no-shows. The ARB met 6 days in June last year and 16 days in July. Just as an aside, 36% of the cases, 150 of the 420 you heard were agent cases. So I put on there, if we were to meet 4 days a week and scheduled 5 hearings per docket, we would hear 80 cases a week. It would take approximately 25 days to hear 500 cases. We have 17 days available in June and 12 days in July to get to our 95% complete, and we need to schedule a Saturday. So that's how many days we have available, how many days it would take to hear 500 cases if it were 5 hearings per docket. Obviously, if there were 8 hearings per docket, it wouldn't take as many days, but we might have to have overflow, like if it's more than 2 hours, then we have to reschedule those people who didn't get heard. Because we have an hour and a half per docket. So at 20 minutes a case, that's, that allows for 4 full hearings, 5 hearings, it would go about 10 minutes over if you were just to run through the 20 minutes. But of course, there's always the call in and the preambles and all of that. So our hearing procedure times, we have to add on a little bit extra for that. So an hour and a half, we're just really squeezing it in, is my point.
Question, Valerie,
Yes.
if we start with 5 and we realize, oh, this is working better than we thought, how much extra work would it be to later on down the, given the 10 or 15 days or however advance notice, just we move it up to 6 or 7 or 8? Is that doable?
I'd rather,
Yes.
I'd rather do it in the reverse order.
I would too,
I'd rather do 6 or 7 and say, gosh, this is slamming us to the wall. We can't.
except the first day. This is the first, maybe first or first 2.
I just know from experience of like, we always get tied up at the end with people that are trying to, like they want it, like you had them on a hearing and they call you the day before, they want to reschedule and now you're jacked. It just always ends up like we're always crunched at the end. I would rather front load it, and then if we have the room to,
Because if we need extra days for other,
we just don't have them at the end.
no, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Fill it up so that then we've got some days
So,
left.
so let me understand this, Val. There was 420 cases that were heard out of the 581 that was scheduled. So there was 28%. So let's just say a quarter of those were no-shows. How many of the, you know what? We actually had no-shows that were telephone hearings last year.
Yep.
Like we couldn't believe it. Like all they had to do was call in.
Yeah.
So I still think we're gonna have no-shows.
So we'll leave it,
The ARB met 6 days in,
yeah, just 6 days in June.
we need to meet more days in June this year,
Yes.
guys. We need to like hit it from the ground running. July was.
I'd rather
12
do
weeks.
it all in June.
I would be.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you and Michael. I'm good with front loading it and getting as much done in June as we can.
I'm thinking 4 days a week in June and let's just chew it up as fast as we can.
It seems like in the past, we've had troubles with Mondays, like that, I think Ramona usually isn't available on Monday and Kathy sometimes, you're okay now. So I was kind of
What are
thinking,
these under in here, those numbers? I'm just
They're under
Section 9.
section 9, which it says housekeeping, it's IX. And it's not under a folder, it's just by itself.
What do you mean
oh,
by
it is
itself?
under a folder, I thought. Yeah,
Here.
Hit the circle down at the bottom and hit the back button. Okay, go to where's docs? Where do you see docs?
okay, I guess I didn't,
I see it.
It's on mine.
It's in there. It's in there.
okay.
Docs. Mhm.
Here's,
Now go to documents.
there's
ARB,
there.
ARB. 20th, May 20th. And then this one right here.
Is there any way we can get a hard cut?
This
Because
one
then
down,
it'll
right
just
there.
kind of give us an idea, thinking, because you know how we need to give you dates that we know for, it'll,
I put I put June and July calendars on everybody's table. So we can look and figure out what would be a good
Go
schedule
back. One time.
and get that.
And
Pretty
then
much
yeah,
set.
one time.
I can't be here in the first part of every Monday.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So, and rather than go like 5 days a week, we thinking probably 4 days a week. So maybe Tuesday through Fridays in June.
Well, Fridays, I'm probably gonna have to leave early.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
that's okay, no worries. So, but we still have a quorum even without Ramona in the morning.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I'd rather do it on a Monday than a Friday myself personally. And Fridays are better for you to be out.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's a real busy work day.
Yeah.
So I'm
Mondays, I'll just be.
I'm great front loading
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday. Let's just hit it,
Starting on the 8th.
starting on the 8th. Uh-huh.
Monday through Thursday.
And probably on the 8th, we probably won't have a full load. We'll kind of try to get into it. Remember last year we didn't.
Right, because we have to have the protest there and this, but we might do an agent or something that day.
So are we gonna plan on from the 8th to the 12th full days? Or we don't know?
8th to the 11th.
8th
So
to the 11th, I'm sorry,
yeah, so it's Monday through Thursday, 4 days a week,
and not Friday.
not Fridays. We're gonna have Fridays off. And then do that for the week of the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th.
And of course, we are gonna do Friday the 5th.
Friday the 5th. Oh, yeah, that's right. Friday the 5th is
Will you
special.
be closed the 3rd and the,
Yeah, we're gonna be closed the 3rd and the 4th. We have off the 3rd and the 4th for,
I thought maybe that Monday you might close too.
can we look at that, Val?
Oh,
I
we're
think
not
you should
closed.
be.
We would be closed on Friday.
Friday the 3rd, right?
Yeah, that's the only day we would have.
go check.
But if you'd rather not have meetings on that Monday, we certainly don't have to.
I think that might be a good idea.
You always have a bunch of company.
Yeah, but this year,
I know.
They're saying not do Mondays?
no. All we're saying
This
is
is
July
just the 4th of
6th,
July.
Oh, July 5th.
just because it's the 4th of July weekend and just
Yeah.
because there's always
Oh,
so
yeah,
much
right,
going
I
on.
would skip
To
that.
not do it, even if the office is open on the 6th,
Not do
to
it.
not
No, yeah.
schedule hearings.
Which days did you pick already?
Monday through Thursdays.
Monday through Thursday?
Yeah. We're gonna start that on the 8th.
All right, so we've got the 5th, and then we do Monday through Thursday for all of June.
Okay.
We're off July 3rd.
Okay.
So that still works out if we want to do the whole. So if we're in June, we're thinking about just working through, that gives us, at least on the schedule wise, that's 4 times 4,
That's 16.
16 in
Well,
basic.
and it'll give us an idea of how they're going.
That's true.
Because people may be sitting around at home and like, we may get lots of them or,
And remember, we're front loading these, so 15 days before this, we would have given notice before the 8th.
That
And,
would, yeah.
and
ooh, you're
so,
gonna have to get those out.
and so, huh?
Yeah, that would be 512 if you take the 32 cases a day times 16 days.
See, the reality is that it's not all gonna fill up at the beginning. And the reality is, we will know by the end of that first week
How it's going.
how it's going. And know how to schedule for basically 2 weeks out from that, which would be the week of that 22nd. We'll know like, holy crap, this is way too much. We need to back off to, instead of 8 cases, did you say in the morning time? 8 cases in the morning, 8 cases?
No, it's 8 cases per docket.
So
So it'd be
30
16 and 16,
So 32.
32 a day.
Yeah, so we'll know whether to back that number off by that time. We'll know at the end of that first week, probably within the first 2 days. That Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, by Wednesday, we're going, whoa, wait a second, let's back this off. Or, no, this is good, we're doing okay.
But we've been doing about 8.
We've always
scheduled
scheduled 8, but remember, we've only seen about 75% of those.
Right.
So out of the 32, what does that leave us with? 32 times 0.75. We've seen about 24 cases a day.
That sounds good.
I wanted to ask y'all also, like O'Connor, the agent, has a lot of properties, and we've gone through them in like a day and a half before. Is there a maximum number of their cases you want me to schedule for a day, or just give them a day and a half and we go through as fast as we can?
I think cause like, didn't he come and like have half a day here, half a day there, and it's like, if you're doing your job and you want it,
I think we should do them on a day and a half.
and just solid, not that he comes 5 different days for half a day.
Right, and it says in the code, if it's the same agent or whatever, you have to give them 20 per day that they could be, just them. But of course, it's a lot more than that, and I just don't wanna overload, but I know we've done O'Connor like in a day and a half. So are y'all good with just
We'd rather get them done.
Get them and get them.
scheduling a lot? Okay.
If we know now that we can't be here certain times, do you wanna know that now?
Yes.
I just, the second Wednesday of every month, I have a board meeting with the Humane Society at 4 o'clock, so I have to leave at 3:30.
Second Wednesday, so.
Second Wednesday, which would be the 10th and the 8th.
So you don't have to leave till 3:30?
3:30.
Oh, that's cool.
Are you writing it down now?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And I don't know what else I've got, so if we have, I'm not on my calendar with me, but if we have things, we just let Val know, so that you'll know whether you're gonna have a forum or not.
Well, or Mr. Powers, how do you want that to
Let
be
Charlie
handled?
know.
Yeah, just let me know and I'll pass it on to them.
Okay.
And then I can make sure that we have a quorum.
We just need 3.
Yeah.
We need 3, so
Pretty well.
we need 3
Okay,
members,
people, yeah.
3 members to have a quorum.
So it hasn't been a problem.
It's been close before.
Huh?
It's been close before on a couple of occasions. They're like, oh, no, y'all have to come. No, you have to come.
You have to be here.
So in July, would we want to start, back up on that Tuesday, the 7th? And then go through Thursday and then,
What's wrong with the 6th?
No, we don't wanna do that.
cause it's the day after the 4th of July weekend,
Oh, gotcha, okay. So the 6th is out, but the 7th through the 9th?
right? And then the 13th through the 17th,
Through the 16th.
16th, thank you.
And then the 20th is the day, right?
That's the day that we submit, it has to have the 95%.
Okay, so what I'll say is that, you know, we always get into the 15-day deadline, or if a person wants to waive their 15-day right, we can get them in, you know, or whatever. But what I would say is it's probably gonna look dicey. It always looks dicey at the end. We may have to do the 17th as well. And even if even if we have 2 members that are out, we still have a quorum of 3.
You have to do a Saturday someplace, don't you?
Yeah.
We have to if we have a request for it.
Oh.
We haven't always had a request
Yeah.
for it.
I wanna say there's something new this year in regard to that also, but yeah. we
Maybe a
need-
Saturday's required.
Maybe, we need to
So
be
then,
sure and have one.
Okay,
So is there a Saturday that kind of works good for everybody?
not the 4th.
Can we look at June?
I have no idea. My calendar's at home.
Let's knock that
August
Saturday out in
2nd.
June too.
Maybe Saturday the 27th?
That's not good for me.
Okay,
What about the 20th?
20th?
I like July 11th a lot.
Oh, for a Saturday?
Yeah. Let's put that down, please.
Let's do it. Mikey likes it.
It's just that my mother-in-law's moving to a retirement center, and I've got a month to get her out, so. We could do the 27th as well, I guess, but,
11th is good.
okay.
All right, so are we good on the calendar then?
Are you taking notes of who's not gonna be here when, or?
Yes, if you have some days you want to give.
Yes, I have a doctor's appointment on June 29th between 2 and 3 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So that would be just afternoon you'd be gone.
Yeah,
I have
just
another
an
one as
hour or
well.
so.
Now,
Yes, ma'am.
Tuesday, Wednesday, the 17th, I have a 2 o'clock appointment.
Okay.
I leave at 1:30, I'm not comfortable.
Get Nathan to get scheduled, to get things worked out.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any, I'm looking.
Anything else we need to take care of? Tony?
I'm still looking.
I had, Mr.
Old
Powers on
agenda?
here.
Nothing?
Yeah, when we finish this item, we're done.
I uploaded a notice of protest hearing also. We ran it by Jim Evans, our attorney, but made some changes from the original document that we approved back in September.
Or were these the ones where we talked with you about and you were gonna, okay.
Right, where it says you have a telephone conference call, what you need to do. What the changes that we really made were to add a video conference on, and it's there on your pad under notice of hearing. I mean, it said notice of hearing,
Mhm.
under housekeeping items, the folder of housekeeping.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, this is good.
Orders of determination.
No, it's under the housekeeping folder, and it's notice of hearing.
Okay, I found it.
You have that notice of protest hearing or?
Mhm.
Good.
All right. And then the very last thing came up about the printer in here when we're doing the orders, that this printer is kind of loud and takes a while. So we thought that perhaps it would work better if we sent everything to the printer up front in like a job. And then at the end of the docket, we would hit the print button and all of those orders would print out from that docket. And then we would bring them to you, Mr. Powers, to sign each of those orders.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how we'll do that then.
So we
If
should
that's okay.
struck on, and the docket is,
An hour and a half long, 8 hearings.
a docket is a half a morning.
Yes,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay,
Doing it that way.
right, it'd be the 8:30 to 10, and then we've got the 10 to 11:30.
And then 2 in the afternoon. Two
Yes.
dockets in the afternoon.
Right,
So you print
1:30
them,
to 3,
you print them in 4 sets.
yes,
That's fine.
4 sets.
Yeah,
And-
that's fine.
Okay.
If we're remote, you'll have to be signed once a day.
Uh-huh, and that'll be fine, we'll just collect
This is
them.
basically the same thing, but if we're all, at our houses, the signatures will be done once per day, the end of the day.
So we would bring those to your house, Mr. Powers, if you were at home. At the end of the day, we would bring all those orders for you to sign that had been determined
Okay,
earlier in the day.
okay,
But if you're here, we'll do it at the end of each docket.
that's fine.
Did you answer the question in regard to how we're setting up the meetings, whether they're an AM docket and a PM docket? For the Zoom, for the agenda, Val, for the agenda, or is it a 1 day and it runs through lunch kind of thing? Because I don't think that's probably good.
Right, go ahead, Damon.
Well, I guess it sort of depends on how the day ends up being as far as when we break for lunch. When the morning begins, it will already be going. The meeting will already be set up to broadcast, just to make sure that we don't have a property owner in here while we're having any kind of technical difficulty. And Zoom gives us a dedicated meeting ID. It's kind of like a phone number. It's actually formatted like a phone number too. And anytime you call into our meeting, it's the same number. So if they get one for their hearing and they want to go to a different docket or a different time, as long as the meeting is taking place, they'll be able to call into it. So if we want to run it all morning and all afternoon or all day and just mute it for lunch, it won't affect really anything other than me or whoever's clicking the Zoom meeting.
So just so I understand, if we had one meeting ID on here that people could come to, they would have a notice of protest hearing, they would have the same link,
Yes,
they would have a same meeting password
yes.
that they would go into, and all they would do is at their time of the meeting, we would have to make that clear on our notice procedures, or our hearing notice, that they would have to call in however many minutes before their meeting, and they would be in the virtual waiting room at that point, and you would be able to see that.
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I
Yes.
was gonna say, how are we gonna make sure that they're clicked out? Gone.
When they
They-
leave. Well, I mean, I can kick them if we need to.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's really good if you think of Zoom in terms of a teacher in a classroom. That's really where it becomes very intuitive, that there's students and a teacher can say, your turn to talk, your turn to talk. That's very much how the software is set up to operate. So it's easy to say, mute everybody except for that guy, or let this guy start sharing, or kick this person out, or put them in the waiting room, and you can send the messages to everybody in the waiting room.
Okay.
You know, at the beginning of every agenda meeting like this, even when we do hearing procedures like this one, we actually had a citizens to be heard. There'll actually be an opportunity for that. Eamon will actually see somebody virtually in the waiting room, and he'll actually have the ability to chat or communicate with them and say, do you have an appeal today, or are you just a citizen to be heard, or do you just want to watch? You know, he'll actually have that ability to communicate. So let's say it's a citizen to be heard, and they have a question about gun rights, you know, totally off the wall. But they're a citizen to be heard, you have to hear them during that time. And then you would say something to the effect that, like, we have no purview in determining whether guns should be used on 5 acres or 10 acres, whatever. You get past that point, and you've already met that agenda item, and now you're into appeals, right? And that person is like Joe Johnson, and he's like, I'm here for appeal. What's your address, or what's your what's your property ID? And okay, we find that. Okay, that's a legit. He called in first, and then Susie Smith called in second, and Mr. Rogan called in third. And so there's a timeline, just like it would be like when they came and waited in this lobby. They're waiting in the virtual lobby, and Eamon knows which one to go next.
Yeah, this morning I actually had to get Beth to turn her microphone on when she was waiting to call in.
Oh yeah.
Her microphone just wasn't turned on her little thing, and I had to tell her through the Zoom thing. It worked fine. So
What happens
it
if
works.
we're all at home and somebody wants to be here or in person?
We're all at home.
Well,
And
I think
somebody
that's when
wants to
they're
be
gonna
heard in
put some of
person.
those off.
Then we would have gotten that document that said they want to be heard in person, and we would have put them to the side until like October or something like that.
Oh, that you would let them know that we're not gonna do it then, at that time.
I'll be out of town in October.
I don't, there's no requirement. The only requirement that I have,
Pandemic or not.
Good Lord willing.
the only requirement that I have at that point is just to give them a hearing. It doesn't say when. It doesn't say how I need to work them in or anything like that. Now, there is some new legislation that says that I have to give preference to, there's a whole list of people. There's over the age of 65, there's disabled persons, there's veterans, there's like this list of people. And so I have to give preference in that group, but I don't have to give preference to people that want to be heard in person in light of a coronavirus that's a real legitimate health concern, as opposed to people that want to do it virtually and say, hey, yeah, sign me up virtually right now. So that's where that 95% rule is coming in, that I have to just kind of weigh out. My hope is that most people will do it online, and I only have a handful of people that actually say, I really want to be face-to-face because I just don't know how all this other stuff works, and that's okay. I mean, we just put them to the side, and hopefully they're within that less than 5%. Yeah. And if it's not, then I don't know. We'll just have to cross that bridge if we come to it.
But also, didn't we just have maybe one person last year that, I mean, they changed from gonna be here in person to want to do it remotely, but they don't go from remote to in person. Because I think maybe there was one last year that changed, they were gonna do a call in and they changed.
They said I'm gonna show
One
up.
that did that.
But on the form, on the telephone, because all we had last year was telephone, on the telephone hearing, it always says that I will appear by telephone, but there's always something in the code that says if they show up in person, then they get,
And I think it was just one
Yeah.
last year that.
well,
that
what we're
did that.
hoping for is if a person checks in person, we're gonna, first of all, we would
Switch
pick up the phone and say, hey, what's your issue? If we can't resolve it informally, then our next question is, we noticed that you checked in person. Would you please consider, in light of the recent health concerns, would you please consider changing it to a video conference? Would you agree to a video conference or telephone conference? And then we would get some kind of document exchange that says that they're, per our recent conversation, we want a video conference or we want a telephone conference. We would want that. We'd get that document, and then at that point, we handle them by video conference or telephone.
But in fact, when you have that conversation, and they say they want in person, eventually it comes down to, well, if you really want to stay with in person, it's not going to be till sometime later.
At some point in the future, that's correct.
And to also the people that are older and don't, we still have phone, which we did a lot last year on the phone. So there's always that option for people that aren't comfortable with their computers. We still have the phone.
We have people that say in person and they don't have a good phone number and they don't have an email and you can't contact them any other way. That one just gets put to this pot. It has to. I mean, and they might call in a month later and go, man, whatever happened to my protest? They go, man, we're so happy that you called. Okay, we're on a phone right now. We can do a telephone conference. That's the conversation that we're having at that point. We're writing their phone number down. Oh, this is that property ID number. This is the phone number. We're trying.
They don't have all that stuff, and how do they get their documents into us?
It's the phone. It's a telephone here. It's just like last time. They would have been mailed all the evidence. They would have mailed in the evidence. They would have signed the affidavit. We'll do all that exchange.
Or they,
So that you
I
can
think they emailed
Yeah,
it.
I'll get it
use for the
updated.
handout.
Didn't they email some of it to us?
Right.
They did.
As soon as I get it, I'll send it.
The affidavit is something that we would mail to them. They would sign.
Got it.
I don't want to.
But she said evidence, but evidence, they
I'll
can
be the
email
worst.
that in.
We'll take it. We'll take it anyway.
So another housekeeping item is signing our notary books for the season. So if you could just one at a time, you'll find your name. And Mr. Powers, you're first on the list. If you want to just go ahead and be the first one to sign, just bring your pen and sign in the blank next to your name.
Are y'all our welcoming or our, let's see, farewell?
Three notary books.
Yeah, we have to watch y'all side, so that we can attest to you guys the rest of the year.
Y'all, look, y'all have,
Oh, sorry.
every single one of y'all has coral or, do y'all do color days? That is too cute. Oh my God.
Tomorrow's purple day.
Ah, I bet purple's good on you too.
That's why I picked it.
And I
Oh,
could
all
just
three?
bring them to you if you'd
All
rather.
three? I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
all
didn't
three.
understand that.
Who's next on there now?
Cindy Duck is next.
I'm gonna bring my own pen.
Yes, bring your own pen.
Eamon, is there something you're gonna tell us?
Yes, I have to talk with each of y'all about how we're gonna do your remote setup.
Okay, Cindy.
Unless my daddy goes home with you and sets it up.
Okay,
I will.
easy.
Wait,
You're
does he have
welcome.
some more
No, I
of those
will. I already
cookies?
said
It
I
seems
will.
like he had some cookies left.
Is Eamon the one that made the cookies?
Scott.
Scott, but it seems like Eamon had some too. No?
Oh, yeah, my daughter made those. She loves to bake.
When it comes to food, I have a good memory.
And Ramona, you're gonna be next.
You're next, okay.
All right.
That's Phoebe that loves to bake, right? Eamon?
Yes. She was jonesing to bake the other day.
They tell her I like biscotti, but not with chocolate in it.
You like them with anisette?
I had some from HEB that was cranberry, pistachio, orange.
Ooh,
Beyond wonderful.
really good.
Oh, I just don't like the chocolate on them because I'm a dunker. I only chocolate in my coffee, but thanks anyway.
But you want orange in your coffee?
That didn't bother me.
And the cranberry, ooh.
I know.
I don't know about,
Not
see,
good.
I'd take the chocolate or like the vanilla almond or.
That would be good. I would like vanilla almond. Just in case you were gonna be baking some.
Yeah, I don't do biscotti. Now I'm gonna do a strawberry cake.
Yeah, you're supposed to give me that recipe.
I know. I'm doing one for Friday, I think.
Yeah.
Are you coming back Friday?
No, but what, you know what?
It was
Once
worth
we-
asking.
I know.
well, wait a minute, I think we come on the 5th, so maybe I'll bring one then. Because y'all took really good care of us last year.
Good deal. Like me.
Was it last year or the year before?
Both.
And Mike, you're on there too, if you wanna do it now. if you
Yeah.
wanna do it later.
I'll do it back here. Do I need to be in blue?
It doesn't matter. I've got a blue pen.
You look different with your beard.
I do.
I mean, it looks good, but it makes him have a different personality a little.
I
bit.
don't get it. All these people, because they say beers, you know, I mean, they get dirty and they germs, but yet during the virus, everybody's growing beers.
Oh,
So
I don't know this,
I
oh, is it
didn't.
the next page?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I didn't. A lot
I
of the
try
guys.
not to, at least.
My son is one. Of course, he had one before, but whatever.
We had a kid that came into work one day and I said, what is that growing on your face? And I mean, he's always been clean shaven. He goes, I ran out of razors and he goes, I haven't been wanting to go to the store or anything. He said, I'm kind of afraid. I'm like, ask your mom.
I like it. I like I've gotten past the bristly.
The
and
itchy
it's
part.
soft.
So it isn't so itchy?
No, it's soft. It's
And it helps him think.
and
do
it's
you use-
it's the same color as mine. You know.
Do you
head,
use
so
the
I got a little
oils?
white right here.
Do you use the oils?
I haven't used the oil.
Let me tell you, because Macaulay, he uses them, and I was like, yeah, okay, oh my God, they really do make a huge difference.
Soft and shiny.
Make it soft and make it look better too. It's
I'll try that.
amazing.
What's
I
it
didn't,
called?
just beard oil.
Oh, interesting.
He may have an extra one, because, you know, like, we try to get him some good cool ones. And I think he's probably
That's all
got
I'm saying.
a drawer full.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank y'all.
All right. I'll have to try that. Where are we
Al,
at?
do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it for the housekeeping,
Okay,
unless anybody else has anything.
we've done X. Or do we have more X?
That's the Zoom conferencing. Do we have anything else we need to cover on that? Okay.
Okay,
So just to be clear, Eamon's gonna communicate with everybody on their computer needs and get them what they need. Okay, good.
At the end of this meeting? Or?
Yeah,
in the-
here in a minute.
You can, for the meeting posterity, you can actually say, like, raise your hand if you think you're gonna need Eamon's help or something like that.
Well, I'm gonna need to poll everybody. So
Okay.
we need to know what page everyone's on.
okay, so,
We'll get it.
so we don't have any X1s. Right? No old agenda items?
No.
Old agenda item found.
I think that we've covered it.
Okay, in that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Are you, look, do you want to be in it?
Let
Sure.
Robert have
Okay,
a
it's
say.
Robert's turn. It's your turn.
I make a motion that we adjourn today's meeting.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting, guys.
Carl, you don't know, we won't know yet whether we're gonna be here on the fifth or not.